All right, we're continuing our WrestleMania weekend previews with Jerry Evergood. Jerry, how's it going?
Hey, it's going good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we had to get you on here. Again, we had you last year to talk about Effie's Big Gay Brunch. We're going to do that again this year as well. Before we get into Mania Weekend and that show specifically, get your plugs out of the way. Let people know where they can follow your work, where they can find you on Twitter, all that other good stuff.
All right. First, you can look on Amazon to find my book, The Ordinary Life of Gerard Irving. It's my first published novel. I'm very happy with it. And if you were willing to give it a chance, I appreciate it. As where you can find me on Twitter at @thejarius_Jer. Full disclosure, I don't just talk wrestling. There's trans issues and there's BDSM stuff. So join on your own, cautions on those things.
Yeah, you're looking for hardcore wrestling analysis. You're not going to always get it. You'll get it sometimes. You'll get it sometimes for sure.
Yeah, you'll get some hardcore, maybe lowercase hardcore, but hardcore. Lots of Jon Moxley fangirlness, so that will be on there also.
You won't even be the only person that's done that on this preview. Joey, who is hosting this Moxley podcast, so I believe you were a guest on recently. I don't know if that episode's out yet or you just did a guest. He spent about 30 minutes just talking about Jon Moxley. So that is a common theme on these WrestleMania weekend things. Is Jon Moxley is good. People like him.
Well, he was there with me all out weekend. I was the only person in the suite chanting for Jon Moxley against Kojima. So,
well, he was against the strongest arm. I mean, there's only a few people that will root against Jon Moxley, and the leader of the Bread Club is one of those. Unfortunately, I have to admit. So,
yep. Well, I had the chant from my man. What can I say?
Sure, you did. You did a great job for it, and he willed him to victory. So, congratulations on that. But
yes, it was me and me alone.
Yes, but yeah. So, as we kind of get on here, I've been asking everybody their thoughts on. Kind of taking their temperature on WrestleMania weekend this year. Are you excited? Are you more excited than usual? The same excited as usual? Less excited than usual? Where do you stand right now with WrestleMania weekend?
Well, as you know, as I've said openly so many times, wrestling is like my biggest passion. It's been since childhood. So WrestleMania weekend should be like this big, exciting time for me. It's like not just WrestleMania, but there's just so many things, circled around it. There's so many shows. There's so many options. This should be exciting. It's really not. I don't know what the problem is other than I think this is a case of really too many options is a problem.
Yeah.
Because things feel so stretched out.
Yeah, there are a few people that have brought that up as like, one of the key issues. The things that a lot of people have said has been, like, knowing you're not getting a takeover has actually been a pretty interesting one that people have said that like you knew no matter what was going to go on that weekend that you were going to get a kick-ass takeover show no matter and like you're not going to get that now. You're getting Stand and Deliver. It's on 11 a.m. on a Saturday. I forget what Saturday at 11 a.m. I think or Sunday at 11 a.m.
Yeah, Saturday at 11 a.m. Same time as Big Gay Brunch. Actually.
Yeah, there you go. So and like honestly, I'd rather watch Big Gay Brunch than a takeover. A WrestleMania weekend NXT show, and that's insane. That's nuts. Nobody would ever have thought of that ever in a million years. But this year, yeah, it's like a half-filled building. Nobody is really interested in buying tickets to it either. So. That's one that we've heard a lot of. We've also heard from some other people as well, like you said, that there's just so much going on and everything is so stretched thin that it doesn't feel like you can really say, hey, I'm going to sit down on X time on this day and I know I'm going to get a great show and I know I'm going to get great matches. Yeah. There's some shows that are good, but it doesn't feel like, all right, cool, Sunday or Saturday at 7 p.m. I'm watching this and it's going to be awesome. Like there doesn't feel like there's that, like you almost are forced to watch a ton of different stuff this weekend to try to at least piece together what you think is going to be a complimentary WrestleMania weekend.
I feel like I have to watch 10 or 15 shows to get like an 8 great match card of WrestleMania matches. Mm-hmm. And some of these cards, I don't even know what you're presenting. And I don't know about you, but if I'm going up against a gazillion other shows, I want people to know what I'm presenting to try to get those buys.
Jerry, it seems like a very good idea to promote your shows if you're a wrestling promoter, but that is apparently...
Or make your cards easy to find if you are promoting them.
Yes.
Jesus H. Tap Dancing Christ.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Wrestling.com to solve that issue for you. But yeah, it's a lot of work, and I wish it wasn't so much work. It'd be a lot easier.
I shouldn't have to put in the work. I'm not the promoter. I'm the fan.
Right, exactly.
And I guess the final thing I'll say, just not to keep this going on too long, it's a lot of these cards that do give us what we want feel so thrown together. Like they're throwing something at the wall to see if it works instead of knowing it works.
Yeah, it doesn't. It feels like for the first time maybe ever that WrestleMania weekend, a lot of people are running it just because it's WrestleMania weekend. You know what I mean? Like, well, it's WrestleMania weekend, so we run a show because that's what we do on WrestleMania weekend. Versus like really thinking, okay, cool. In January, okay, what are we going to do for WrestleMania weekend? Let's get a plan together. Let's figure it out. Like, this is a big weekend. We need to make it the biggest weekend of our year. It just doesn't feel like it is that way right now. And you know, I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, some people have mentioned that like All Out weekend is becoming a pretty big deal too. So maybe some of these companies are thinking, you know, I'll wait for that. I don't know. It's strange, but yeah, everyone's kind of had the exact same thought. Like, I'm trying to kind of get into it, and there's enough stuff I like, but there's just not enough to kind of get me excited. I mean, you're somebody who's been to a WrestleMania weekend. You've been to a WrestleMania before. You know what that excitement level is all about. And now, you know, we're a couple days out from it, and it just doesn't feel like that. You know, oh my God, it's here, it's coming. Yes, here we go.
Yes.
It's like it doesn't have that cachet to it right now.
Like, I kid you not, I have to be constantly reminded WrestleMania weekend's coming up, and with so much wrestling available WrestleMania weekend, I shouldn't have to be constantly reminded, hey, Jerry, it's WrestleMania weekend. Oh, shit, is it? And that shouldn't be my reaction either.
Right.
You know?
Oh,
like,
man.
Man, I got to watch all this wrestling. Wait a minute, I like wrestling. What the hell?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's definitely feels that way. But let's get into Effie's Big Gay Brunch. This is going on at, there's a lot of competition, believe it or not, at this time, as we mentioned. This is Saturday, April 2nd. So if you're staying up late, you're obviously going to have Joey Janela's spring break going on at bleeding in from Friday night into Saturday morning. Impact has one of their shows as well going overnight. And then, as you mentioned, NXT Stand and Deliver at 11 a.m. The Sherry Martel Classic also at 11 a.m. WrestleCon's USA vs. the World also at 11 a.m. And Effie's Big Gay Brunch also at 11 a.m. So you got a lot of shows at 11 a.m. on Saturday, which is a tough time slot. But at least this one, you're promised potential food, right? So that's at least you know that if you're really looking, hey, wrestling is good, but food's good too. So if you want wrestling and food, you know, this might be the spot. Yeah, and I went to the Big Gay Brunch and All Out weekend, and they did have brunch, and the brunch the payments you made for brunch went to local LGBTQIA plus charities.
Oh,
there you go. Okay, was it good brunch too? Good food. They bought, like Egg McMuffin from McDonald's, but they also had a delicious pastry section. Okay, that's you had me a pastry. I'm good.
Yep. Just a quick fun fact: at the Big Gay Brunch I went to, there was a person going around passing out cookies for free, to promote their local bakery, and they let me have a cookie, and it was Effie's ass. That was the cookie, and if you ever wanted to know, Effie's ass was delicious. So there you have it, straight from the source. And Effie, if you're listening, you had a delicious ass.
Congratulations! Yeah, there you go. So was it flaky? Was it crusty? Like what kind of how was the ass?
I
can't believe I just asked that. Yeah.
You will never live this down. It wasn't flaky. I guess the best way to describe it was smooth.
Smooth, not doughy. Smooth. It was just smooth.
It was some nice doughy. I can't remember if there was a crunch or not. I think it was a sugar cookie.
Okay.
But it was good. It was really good, and I feel bad that I can't remember the bakery's name. So if that bakery is listening, feel free to tag me and promote yourself.
Yes, and they're based in Chicago. Just send me a ton of stuff, and I will talk about you all the time. So there you go. Just send me boxes upon boxes of delicious baked goods. So
I was front row at that Big Gay Brunch, which I regret because I can see myself on camera at times.
Which is the worst. Which is why I stand in the back.
But I wanted to be front row for that show, and I had such an amazing time. Big Gay Brunch means a lot to me because it is a celebration of LGBTQIA plus talent. It's a very colorful, celebratory, fun time. So I say that because it's hard for me to be unbiased when describing these shows because they do have a significant meaning to me.
For sure. And it's not a show that like you're really going to sit down there and fire up your notebook and go, all right, here we go, click the pen and get ready to, write an impactful review about the work, and the back and forth work or whatever. Yeah, it's a wrestling show. Yes, wrestling is the most important part of it, but it's like not the most important part. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I do. And for anyone listening, I don't consider that an insult.
No.
Not because there have been good wrestling shows in the past where wrestling was kind of the back seat. It's rare, but it does happen. And Big Gay Brunch, if I'm being honest, when I'm looking at the card, looking for a standout match I can point at and say, people who usually wouldn't be gravitating towards the show should tune in to watch, it's hard for me to pinpoint one and go, yeah, you should tune in to watch that, because it really doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah. It's not a show where the wrestlers are in the back, plotting out their spots. And, Dark Sheik asks Carlos Romo, hey, are you doing a tope? Okay, no, then I won't do a tope. It's like, no, who cares? Just go out there, have some fun. Like, hey, represent yourself, represent, what you mean and everything you do. And then just go out there and let's have some fun for a couple hours, which is at 11 a.m. on a Saturday on this weekend where there's just a shit ton of other stuff is perfectly fine. It's in a similar vein to a Chikara. It's in a similar vein in some ways to like a Kaiju Big Battle or whatever. Kaiju Big Battle might be actually a decent comp because a lot of great wrestlers were in Kaiju Big Battle, but they were like a waffle. You know what I mean? So it didn't right. So they were just like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm a waffle. So let's just have fun. Yeah, I'm Chris Hero. I could do really good wrestling, but today I'm a waffle. So you know what? Let's just go out there and have some fun. And that's kind of where there's a lot of good talent on the show. But yeah, trying to expect, AC Mack to go out there and recreate what he does for action wrestling is probably a fool's errand, because that's not what people are really expecting either, is him to go out there and have a 25-minute, killer match or whatever. And if it happens, it happens. But yeah, I wouldn't expect it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Do I expect this to be a fun, colorful show? Yes, absolutely. But if you're coming on this show, and I hope none of the talent who possibly listens kills me for this, and expecting 4-star plus matches, you're probably not going to get it.
Yeah. And
that's just me being honest. And I'm a fan of this show, so I'm just being honest with you. This is not going to be the top matches of the weekend show show for you. You can get that elsewhere. With that being said, there are things I would have done differently. They have, like you said, they have AC Mack on this show. They have Aston Starr on this show, and they have Devin Monroe on this show, and they're in a 4-way tag team match. I would have loved to see them get singles matches.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Devin Monroe is awesome.
Devin Monroe is awesome.
Huge fan. AC Mack obviously goes without saying. I love AC Mack. So yeah, it was a little disappointing to see AC Mack just kind of stuffed into a 6-man tag. Just knowing what he's capable of and knowing what he can do. That you just know, mostly you want him to have the showcase of like, hey, here's one of the best wrestlers in the world. People that do not know this guy, haven't watched this guy, one of the best promos and one of the best wrestlers in the world. So yeah, you would have liked to see him kind of at least front and center for a singles match so that people can be aware of him. And Devin Monroe, again, like I really truly think that if, the situation plays out right and Devin Monroe has a chance to really showcase, what he can do. I mean, I think he's tremendous. I mean, he's one of the best flyers in wrestling. I really, really, truly mean that. It's unbelievable what he's able to do. So yeah, it would have been nice to see him, in a little bit of a bigger spot, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I got to watch Devin Monroe live at the All Out Big Gay Brunch, and I was so impressed. So impressed. I think when I came to the cookout, I just hyped him. I think he was the one thing I hyped up to you that you needed to watch.
Yeah, watching Devin Monroe live too is a kind of a different experience. It's like a lot of flyers are that way too. Like I always mentioned Ricochet as like somebody that, like, yes, you see Ricochet on video and you think, oh, that's a good flyer, he's pretty good. Then you watch Ricochet in person and you're like, holy crap, this is another human being.
Exactly, because I saw Ricochet live. I think it was TakeOver 2019 in New York. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is so different in a very best way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I thought the same about Devin, because I knew Devin Monroe was good when I went to the show. But then I saw Devin Monroe live. I was like, Devin Monroe's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally different animal. But,
so I would have loved to see, honestly, I would have put an AC Mack versus Devin Monroe together.
That would have been pretty cool. Yeah, no argument here. Those are two of my favorites on the show, so no argument here. As far as some of the other matches here, we'll run down the matches and then kind of go over ones that stand out to you. First off, as we did mention, 11 a.m. on Saturday at the Fair Park. That's where all the collective GCW stuff is happening. It is available to watch on Fight Live. Yep. It's also part of the collective bundle as well over at voicesofwrestling.com/fight if you're trying to order this and the collective bundle itself. The big time match here, which is a really, really cool booking for this particular show, probably came together being in Texas, so it certainly helps. But you have Effie versus Pimpinella Escalata. So that is really cool. That's a big time match there. Again, will the work be, incredible, back and forth, 5-star, No, it's not, but that's a really cool match just to kind of tell the story of Pimpinella, tell the story of Effie, and tell the story of the show as well.
I'll say kudos to Effie for getting this match together, because it's a good idea. It's absolutely a good idea to have Pimpinella on this show. It's awesome. I mean, that's probably, even though it's not a work rate match, it's probably the closest thing to a match I'm going to point at and say, hey, you might want to check this out.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Pimpinella, not the first, Exotico ever, and certainly won't be the last, but one of the more famous ones of this era as well. So getting, Pimpinella here at, age 52. They're, luchadors, they'll last for a while, but that's still like, you're getting a legend in that Exotico field. Like they're, it's, I think Pimentel's been doing Exotico stuff since like, I want to say the late 80s, maybe early 90s or whatever. So you're talking a very, very long time. So yeah, one of the key, Exoticos in history. So yeah, this is a great booking for Effie and the Big Gay Brunch.
It is a very great booking. Effie continues to do all he can to raise his profile and raise the profile of this show. This show obviously means a lot to Effie. Effie has his faults. I'm not going to go over them, but as far as the show goes, he always does his best to put on a show that's going to be at least fun.
For sure. Definitely.
And this is definitely a match that I think this show benefits from greatly.
Absolutely. Dark Sheik versus Pero, Jai Vidal versus Carlos Romo, Max the Impaler versus Edith Surreal. You mentioned this match a little bit. It's Pretty in Pink versus Ashton Starr and AC Mack versus the Main Street Posse versus Devin Monroe and Brooke Valentine. Kieta Murray versus Bill Dixon, and Allie Catch versus Dango are your announced matches so far. So anything else on that list that's kind of piqued your interest?
Just for the styles class of it, Max the Impaler versus Edith Surreal is going to be interesting because they are two completely different styles of wrestler.
Oh, yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah. If you've never seen Max the Impaler, yeah, definitely it will be the least colorful ring attire and the least colorful look you'll get the entire
night.
Or maybe Max changes it around and you can make
maybe
that
they're definitely going to stand out, and standing out is not a bad thing.
No.
Max is not the greatest in the ring, but Max has a presence. They absolutely have a presence, and they're going to probably ragdoll Edith Surreal so bad. Poor Edith. But Edith is really good at the technical game, and I would like to see how she grounds Max the Impaler's sheer power and just dominance.
Yeah.
The 1, 2. I can't do math, folks.
No, I think it's 2, 4. You're asking the wrong person. 2, 4.
Yeah, the multi-tag match.
There you go.
The multi-tag match. There we go. Problem solved. Jerry can't do basic math. We have learned something. The multi-tag match, despite my criticism, it's probably going to be really good.
Oh, yeah.
There's too much talent in there not to be good.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be, in soon-to-be numbered amount of people. I think it's but just going around there and doing a bunch of shit for, 10 minutes. And that's going to be cool.
Yeah. I'm going to say this nicely. I wish Dark Sheik had a different match. I really like Dark Sheik. And I don't dislike Pero. I just think Pero has kind of... what's the word I'm looking for? His work has not improved.
No. Yeah, I don't know if there's something, I don't know if there's an injury or something going on, but yeah, I watched Pero during the NWA stuff this last week, and it's been going on for a little while now, but during the NWA stuff, it was like, man, I don't know what's going on, because I thought Pero a couple years ago was awesome. Like one of the better, I loved that tag team. Like that tag team really stood out to me.
That tag team ruled.
It ruled, and it's just, it doesn't rule anymore, and I'm like, I don't know why. Like I'm not quite sure, and Pero in particular just doesn't feel like the same worker that they were a couple years that they were a couple years ago. So it's just like I don't know what's going on exactly. I'm not sure if I'm just kind of over wrestling. I'm hurt. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it does kind of feel disappointing, especially with Dark Sheik. This is a pretty big spot. This is going to be one of the major, singles matches on this show. You would hope that Dark Sheik could maybe get a better, I think Dark Sheik versus Carlos Romo would be pretty cool.
Yes.
I think Dark Sheik, Dark Sheik versus AC Mack, like we mentioned earlier. We're looking for something for AC Mack to do. There you go.
I would have loved that.
Yeah, I just think there was a lot of better bookings for Dark Sheik than Pero. So that is a little disappointing.
Yeah. Dark Sheik, along with Edith Surreal, are like two indie heroes of mine. They both are, for obvious transgender pride reasons, of course. But they're also both legit good. Mm-hmm. And I really would have liked Dark Sheik to get AC Mack. Dark Sheik Devin Monroe would have been great. And I don't mind Pero on this card. I want to be clear. Pero has been a big part of Big Gay Brunch. Pero deserves to be on the card. It's just, this is not the match I would have done.
Yeah, I'm not saying, take the booking away and, take the money away from Pero or whatever. It's just, a big-time featured singles match. Honestly, Pero would be a really good part of that big multi-person tag or whatever, because, using Pero to be the base for people like Devin Monroe or whatever would have probably ruled. That would have been cool to have, him go in there and just throw, the little ones around. That would have worked for sure. But
no disrespect, and I mean that sincerely, but Pero and Max the Impaler both in the 8-man tag would have been something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you need
just had this much. Just had these two big bruisers in there.
Exactly.
And what I also like about these cards, sometimes I get to know certain wrestlers better. I really do not know, and correct me if I say the name wrong. Keita Murray.
I think it's Kita or Kieta. I forget exactly what it is, but
I apologize if I got your name wrong.
Yeah, I apologize as well.
But versus Bill Dixon, I want to see what Murray can do. And Bill Dixon is a proven commodity on big gay brunch shows, so this is a good challenge for Murray.
Absolutely, yeah. And I feel like I've seen Murray a couple times, but not enough to actually give like a good opinion about. So you're absolutely right. And that's one of the cool things about a show like this is that you might discover somebody. I mean, hell, Devin Monroe. I discovered Devin Monroe a couple years ago from Big Gay Brunch because I had never heard of Devin Monroe before. Saw that and was like, oh, all right. Now we got something here. This is pretty cool. So.
And then in my complete and utter curiosity category, I got to be honest, I need to see how Catch versus Dango goes because I did not expect to see that match on this card. Look, I know we here at Voices Wrestling, not many of us have a big Alley Catch fandom. I think that goes without saying.
Pretty fair. Yeah, fair to say.
I will give Alley Catch this. Alley Catch is popular just about everywhere she goes.
Yeah, for sure.
She gets reactions, and sometimes in wrestling you can get by on that. And I think she's very liked, she's very loved, so I think this match, regardless of quality, is going to go over well at the show. Whether people watching at home it goes over well with is a complete different thing, but maybe the crowd can enhance it. And fun fact, my favorite Alley Catch moment is I gave Dark Sheik $5 to staple on Alley Catch, and Dark Sheik did.
Nice.
$5 awesome. Well spent. So I'm sorry, Alley Catch, but my favorite memory of you is having my money stapled on you.
You know what? Pro wrestlers, man. That's they'll tell you as long as they got you, they got you hooked one way or another. At least they got a couple bucks out of you to do something fun. That's what the game's all about. So that's cool.
Yep, and I know also Kid Bandit is on this show, but I don't think he have been given a match yet.
Yeah, there's a few other people, Pollo Del Mar, Kid Bandits, Amy Rose, who I think is probably just going to be doing ring announcing, and I think that's... our
Pollo Del Mar is probably going to be the host.
Yes, yeah.
But so I have no idea what Kid Bandit's going to do. Kid Bandit is all over the place on Twitter, so Kid Bandit being on this show is not a bad idea at all.
No, not at all.
Kid Bandit will probably wear something cute, which is going to be fine by a lot of people. And this is good, and I say this sincerely, this is going to be a fun show. It's not going to be a great wrestling show, but it's going to be a fun show and it's going to be a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to try not to go this route too hard on this podcast, but I would not be true to myself if I didn't touch on this. This show's happening in Texas. And Texas is not a very... I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of Texas is not a very friendly LGBTQIA place. And to put it bluntly, they really hate transgender people. I'm not saying the populace of Texas hates transgender people, but obviously those in power, the elected officials are really going after transgender people. So I'm really hoping if Effie does brunch, and sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. I apologize. If Effie does brunch, I hope Effie gives it to some legit, truly good, strong transgender charities. Mm-hmm. And if you don't watch Big Gay Brunch, please consider it because we are being put through the ringer, not just in Texas, but absolutely everywhere right now. And shows like this, regardless of my criticisms I just gave, mean a lot to me because they are bright spots we really need right now.
Yeah.
And so please, to the talent, please to Effie, any criticisms I say, know that I really appreciate this show going on, especially in the heart of a state that is really trying to legislate some of us out of existence. And so thank you.
Yeah, no, I honestly, thank you for bringing that up. I completely forgot the weirdness of this happening in Texas, which is, hey, in the end, it could be really cool. It could say, I wouldn't be surprised if they get in the ring and say, fuck you, once they're done, once they're out of the way, once they can kind of roll out of the ring and say, oh, we got to go. But it'd be pretty cool for them to say, hey, you know what, this show, something like this happening in Texas is meaningful, and all these asshole elected officials that want to make sure that we don't exist or that we go away or we don't have the same rights that other humans have. Fuck off, go to hell. You can die and then leave the ring as quickly as possible and get out of Texas.
And I want to be clear, I have no fault for any of these shows running in Texas. You got to make that money, you got to please your fans, and there's LGBTQIA plus people in wrestling and wrestling fandom in Texas who deserve to have these shows.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
But if any show is listening to the review, which they may or may not be, if anyone listens to the review and you're in Texas, if you're running a show, if you're going to a show, any of those things, please consider donating and helping.
There you go. Well said.
It would be really appreciated from the bottom of my heart.
There you go. Well said, Jerry. Thank you so much for doing that. And then before we get out of here, do you want to let us know is there any other shows that you're kind of circling this weekend saying, hey, I'm definitely interested in seeing this, I'm definitely interested in watching this, anything else that kind of sticks out to you from this weekend?
I will definitely be watching Bloodsport because that's one of my favorite things to watch. I'm really, really, really into Moxley versus Biff Busick. That's going to be my jam.
How could you not?
That's going to be my jam right there. It really stinks that I'm struggling to come up with answers for you. And I think that just once again shows the problem this weekend. Impact looks like it could be a lot of fun.
They have a really good show.
Yeah. And, I think all the shows together, scattered throughout, have matches I am really going to want to check out, but there's very few full shows I'm really going to dive into.
Yeah, I'm probably the same way. I'm probably going to bounce between a bunch of different stuff. I know the New Japan show looks pretty good. Bloodsport, I'll always check out. There's a few of the WrestleCon stuff that I definitely want to check out. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of picking and choosing, and whatever's on at whatever time I'm available, I'm going to watch. Not necessarily kind of sitting down and getting ready. And as I've told people, I talked about on the Flagship this week as well. I mean, this wasn't my quote-unquote job. I wouldn't watch a second of WrestleMania. And that probably hurts the weekend as well. Is like the dread of, oh my God, I got to watch WrestleMania now. Like, I've never done that. I've never had, even in the worst quote-unquote years, I've been like, oh, hey, it's WrestleMania. At least it's going to be good. This year, I'm like, oh my God, I got to watch 6 hours of this shit.
Yeah, and that's disheartening.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
Definitely sucks. But, Jerry, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and helping us preview Effie's Big Gay Brunch, speaking about some important topics as well. Before we get out of here, I'll let you plug away yet again about the book, where people can follow you, and anything else that you want to talk about.
Yep. Once again, my book is called The Ordinary Life of Gerard Irving. It's on Amazon. I self-published it. You can find me on Twitter at @thejarius_Jer. Once again, it's not just wrestling. There's other topics, so please keep that in mind. And, of course, you will find me on voicesofwrestling.com, writing every so often and doing reviews. So please check me out if you want to. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Jerry, thank you so much for coming on here and helping us preview WrestleMania weekend. You have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
And joining us now to help preview WrestleMania weekend is Jack Beckman. You can find him on Twitter at Packerman120. Jack, how's it going?
Doing good tonight. I'm ready to talk about some shows that half of them don't have full cards for, and the ones that do have cards aren't the greatest.
Yeah,
so ready to jump
into it. Yeah, that's WrestleMania weekend, baby. And you've done a few of these previews with us over the years. Just trying to take everyone's temperature on this Mania weekend versus other ones. I mean, this really feels like the nadir, doesn't it? Like, even last year, while the pandemic is still kind of going, I feel like there was at least some stuff that you could sink your teeth into. Maybe we were just desperate. Maybe we were just so ready to have something. This just feels like a really, really dire WrestleMania weekend. I mean, there's some stuff I like, but we're going to talk about 5 shows or 4 shows here, and there's not much here. And not that we picked the best shows. I mean, to be honest, you picked a few terrible shows to talk about. But regardless, I mean, what is your overall temperature on Mania weekend before we kind of get into these shows?
So my interest is at the lowest it's probably ever been since I started watching wrestling when it comes to this Mania weekend. Normally I go into Mania weekends, super excited to, watch some stuff I've never watched before, maybe discover some new guys. But this year, I legitimately don't know if I'm going to watch more than maybe 15 matches total scattered across all the shows. Like, just nothing's jumping out at me. Like, and the shows that have cards, which is not enough, don't
few
look
far
great.
between, unfortunately.
But it's it's just a bummer because I did always want to go to a Mania weekend because when I first started watching, they were good, but I wasn't old enough and all that. But now that I can theoretically afford travel, it's just not worth it, which is a bit of a bummer, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think this is actually the first time that everybody I'm going to talk to, and I think I'll have to double check with everybody, but I'm pretty sure nobody that we're going to have on the show is going to Mania weekend, which is pretty wild because there was one year, I think it may have been the New York year, where like half the people I talked to, I was like, all right, see you in a little bit. Like, I'm going to see you in a couple days or whatever. Like, there was so many people going to that New York one and so many people going to, the New Orleans one. We had a huge contingency of people from the website there. And yeah, it felt like every other one. Even last year, there was still some people there's 0 people going this year, and I'm myself included in that as well. And I really, really did consider it, but some other things came up, and I just decided, I'm not going to do it. And kind of glad. I mean, there's. I mean, I could come up with a good day, like I could have a fun weekend, but it is certainly not the must see event that it was years prior. And we're probably a few years away from it being that must see event, but this one really does feel like we're at our wit's end here with like what are we really doing with this weekend?
Right. I think honestly at this point, All Out weekend has eclipsed Mania weekend for people like wanting to travel in and all that stuff. Like All Out obviously better than WrestleMania, and then there's usually some Chicago indies running in and around the area that gives you much better cards than whatever these other random promotions that we're going to talk about are going to give you for a Mania weekend.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get into a few of these ones here first. So Thursday, March 31st, yes, kicking off WrestleMania weekend is going to be our friends at, of course, none other than Insane Hardcore Wrestling, IHW. You guys all know IHW. We're longtime IHW fans, all of us. Extreme Combat, Extreme, of course, spelled with an X and a dash because it is a wrestling promotion. That's going to be at 5 p.m. Thursday, March 31st at the Regalia Theater in Fort Worth, Texas. What can you tell us about Insane Hardcore Wrestling, Jack, before we get into the card itself?
Unfortunately, I don't know anything about.
You're our Insane Hardcore Wrestling expert.
In fact, I'm not even sure that they are a real promotion because it appears they're running a doubleheader at this venue with the Iconic Heroes Wrestling Excellence show. Mm-hmm. And I think these are the same promoters. I tried looking this up earlier today, but I shockingly couldn't find any information on whether or not they were the same ownership groups. But I'd have to assume that like whoever is renting the building out for the weekend, because this same building also has ZOWA Pro, which we're going to talk about later. I'm assuming it's the same person kind of like promoting all these shows, but who could possibly know for sure?
Yeah, so what I was able to find out through a little bit of research is it looks like this was a company that started as a backyard federation, which with the name will definitely make sense. Insane Hardcore Wrestling sounds like your friend's backyard wrestling federation. I was probably in a backyard fed called Insane Hardcore Wrestling at some point. And then I think that they stopped running for like 2 decades or so. And for some reason they're back here. Like you said, I don't know the connection. I'm not quite sure. Maybe we'll figure out over the course of this series, but or these previews. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure. But as far as I could tell, they used to be a backyard fed. For some reason, they're coming back now for the first time since I think 2003 or 2004 was the last time they ran. And yeah, and here they are. So in all their insane hardcore wrestling, extreme combat glory. So let's talk about a few of the matches here. And these are a lot of names that you were probably not going to know. These feel like very Texas names. If you're not into the Texas scene, you probably don't know most of these people, but there's a few, names here and there that are, are ones that I think I would definitely keep my eye on, or ones that, guys I've seen before that I really do like. Lainey Luck versus Aramis Blair, women's match there. Lainey Luck, obviously she's all over the place, these days. I can tell you that I don't know anything about Vinny Pacifico, though. Do you know any Vinny Pacifico?
So actually, I do, because I looked him up earlier. He actually has the best look out of any of the people on the show, in my opinion. He's pretty jacked, which I know you're a big fan.
Yes. Okay.
So he actually seems like he might be maybe one of the few people on the show worth giving a shit about. Because when I saw a picture of him, I was immediately just very, very intrigued. And his match is probably, this show's not going to make tape, so I'm not going to pretend like I'll ever watch it, but his match versus Jaden Newman, I'm guessing probably will be the best one on the show, if I had to guess.
Yeah, and Newman was the other guy that I was going to mention of guys that I've heard of, guys that I've watched, and I think he's a really good talent as well. So if somehow you find yourself in Fort Worth, Texas on Thursday at 5 p.m. and you go to the show, I mean, yeah, you're going to at least get, I can tell you for sure that you're going to see somebody with a pretty good amount of talent there in Jay Newman. You also have Sam Beal versus Simon Miller, Nova Phoenix versus Morgan Mercy, Phil Noir, who has a film noir gimmick as well. He comes out in he looks like Dick Tracy or something. It's pretty awesome, actually. Okay. So I'm into that. Versus Reggie Lincoln. And then, of course, for your IHW championship, a Texas slugfest between Stephen Kirby, Gabe Wilder, Sam Stackhouse, Aaron Mercer, Corey O'Neill, and Tommy Prince. So, Jack, I need your prediction. Who is going away? Who is winning the IHW championship after the Texas Slugfest at Extreme?
So it would help to know who the current champion is, but unfortunately, that's information.
See, I don't. Do they have one if they haven't run a show in?
That is a good point.
Forever? I don't know. Yeah.
So I think the two favorites probably would be Sam Stackhouse and Aaron Mercer. Aaron Mercer just did a AEW with Masada.
Mm-hmm.
When they were in town there,
which sounds like which honestly sounds like a Mad Libs that you just
And then Sam Stackhouse is the guy that ruined that Joey Janela Zack Ryder match at GCW. So I've heard of him, which I mean, I would pick Mercer just because he has that theoretical AEW exposure, but I doubt any of that matters to whoever's promoting Insane Hardcore Wrestling Extreme Combat.
Yeah. So I was able to find that via their Instagram account on 4/11/1998, the inaugural episode of, or I guess show of IHW Insane Hardcore Wrestling. So free admission if you wanted to go on Saturday, April 11th, 1998 in Fort Worth, Texas. The main event was a triple threat match for the IHW Championship. It was Vengeance David Fuller versus Chainsaw Chris Wolf versus Balls Ryder. Balls Ryder. So that was the inaugural event there. So
that is a name.
That is very 1998 Backyard Wrestling. Also appearing, the Silencer, Buzzsaw, the Midnight Cowboy, and many more. So
I also I found some special guests for this show on their Eventbrite page.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna run these down. Athletes from TCU Sports, including head coach of Fort Worth Funk alumni basketball team Lee Nalen.
I know. Whoa! Hold on a minute. Whoa! Why am I just now finding out that Lee Nalon's going to be there? Hell yeah! All right, I'm there.
I was hoping you would know who that is.
I love Lee Nalon. Yeah, he. I'm trying to. You're so young. I don't know if you would have ever seen Lee Nalon play.
He was in Europe once. I was like,
so he was a Hornet for a while. Do you remember like the it was like the late stage Charlotte Hornets when they had Baron Davis was still pretty solid. Yeah, you don't know that team. They all had headbands and stuff. Yeah,
it looks like he was a Hornet in 2001, which unfortunately I was an infant when.
Yeah, all right. Well.
But we also have New York Times bestselling author Keith Elliott Greenberg.
Okay, I know.
2020 Texas State Congress candidate, journalist, and podcast host Mark Bauer. World record holder powerlifter Rob Brick Savage Hall.
Ooh, get him in the ring. Why is that guy not in the ring, though?
I can't even say that name without laughing.
He sounds like he was on that inaugural show.
Yeah. He also sounds like he's going to do a double shot with Control Your Narrative. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, once he finds out that Control Your Narrative is a thing, my man's going to get some bookings. So good for him.
And then there's also America's Got Talent semifinalist Katie Lynn singing America the Beautiful. As well as...
All right. Now my question to you, Jack. Will there be more special guests than fans in the building here at the Ridge Elliott Theater in Fort Worth, Texas, Thursday, March 31st at 5 p.m.?
Depending on how many athletes from TCU Sports show up.
Yeah, that is a big deciding factor. Yeah. If more than 10 show up, there's a very good chance.
Yeah. They will. There's also Texas broadcasting legend Mark Lawrence. Apparently he worked for World Class. Judging by my quick Google search of him.
All right.
So, yeah, they got a lot of special guests for the show, which is good because none of the wrestlers are draws, so maybe one of them will help.
I'm considering. Now that I know Lee Nalon's coming, I'm considering going. So. Oh, my God. Lee Nalon. Hell yeah. All right. Well, that is Insane Hardcore Wrestling Extreme Combat. Are these men staying to watch the 7 p.m. show following from the Regalia Theater. Iconic Heroes Wrestling Excellence, just rolls off the tongue. IHWE, Old School Hustle, 7 p.m., Regalia Theater, Fort Worth, Texas again. Are those people still listed on that as well, or are they just listed for the Extreme Combat
show?
The
ticket page is listed as an IHWE doubleheader. So I'm guessing it looks like you get attendance for tickets for both shows. So I'm wondering if they're going to mix it up.
Okay.
Also, apparently the IHW bell time is 5, IHW is at 7, and there's a meet and greet in between.
And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matches announced for Extreme Combat. So yeah, they're gonna get that show done in an hour, have time for a meet and greet, and the 7 p.m. for Old School Hustle. Hey, you know what? I welcome it. I welcome a show where they get things moving, get things rolling nice and quick. So I'm in.
It's $15 to get in, so I mean, it's a great deal.
All right, so Old School Hustle here. We have our main event, or I'm assuming our main event. I guess it's not actually true that it would be the main event, but maybe. Texas Brass Knuckles Championship, Hoss Holding versus The Unknown. And I imagine The Unknown is a character and not a man who is unknown, because that would be a terrible way to present your main event. Unless, I mean, maybe they're leaving it open for Lee Nailon, possibly. But I imagine The Unknown is a wrestler. Can you confirm or deny this?
I looked into this. Could not confirm or deny, but I'm guessing it is a wrestler unless they truly don't have anything booked yet for them.
It's The Unknown,
real possibility.
Which is a very weird. I mean, usually it's TBD, TBA, X. So The Unknown lets me believe that. Maybe if it was Unknown, I would say, but The Unknown lets me think that it's probably an actual wrestler here. So IHWE Queen of the Ring. Now this actually looks like it could be pretty solid. Lainey Luck versus Aramis Blair as well. That's is that a double? Are they going double duty there? Hold on a minute. I just realized. Did we, either we mix that up or they're going double duty? I have no idea. It's hard to find these cards, so we're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
They might be going double duty. I don't know.
Yeah, they should. But...
Yeah, that's one of the better matches on either one of the cards, as far as what I know. So, and then the Battle of Fort Worth Luigi Sales Memorial 10-man tag match. Hopefully, you can help us figure out what's going on here. Tim Storm, hell yeah, Aaron Mercer, Tommy Price, Mysterious Q, and Chris Carter. I imagine this is not the Minnesota Vikings Hall of Famer, but I can't deny that either. Versus T-Ray, Sam Stackhouse, Max Heights, Joel Angelo Garcia, and Tommy Becker. So there's some guys in this match. This Mysterious Q, I'm a fan of his. Tim Storm, I'm obviously a big fan of his. We talked about Sam Stackhouse. I'm not that much of a fan of his, but I don't know. There's some dudes in this match. This could be kind of fun, I guess.
Yeah, I can respect this match because they're at least trying to go for some bigger names, like Mysterious Q. Like you said, he's pretty good. Kind of more known outside of Texas. Tim Storm, obviously, still have a soft spot for him after his NWA work. And Mercer, Stackhouse, talked about earlier. This match, I'd say that's a solid chance of being all right. This show definitely looks better than the other one. I mean, by virtue of only having 3 matches, it looks better, but it probably looks like a more enjoyable show than the first one.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's unfortunate. As of this recording, that's all we have match-wise for that one. But we are not done on Thursday. Because, Jack, you're loving these Thursday shows. You cannot wait to preview our Thursday shows. Because then at 8 p.m. from the Upper 90 Soccer Center in Arlington, Texas, I think these are far enough away that I do not believe you'll be able to pull double duty for both of these shows. So you're going to have to pick one or the other, I believe, between Old School Hustle and this show from the Upper 90 Soccer Center, Arlington, Texas, 8 p.m. Thursday, March 31st. It's Dark Arts Entertainment and full-blown pro wrestling presenting Ghouls Night Out. Jack, what can you tell me about Ghouls Night Out?
Okay, so I figured out about this. That is a partnership event from the Dark Arts Entertainment people and a wrestling promotion called Full Blown Pro Wrestling. I think that Martinez Entertainment that they do those Texas Lucha shows are involved in this as well.
Yeah, that's the same arena that's doing it. So I'd imagine that they're probably sharing some sort of talent or ring or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So they're billing this as a mixture between live music, lucha libre, and burlesque, which is an interesting combination for Soccer Warehouse. Their Facebook page, which I was able to find, the participants for this claims that there will also be fire-breathing and rock bands at the show. So they're going for a lot here.
They're definitely going for a lot. Yeah. Now, some of the wrestlers that have been announced on this, and it's very difficult to kind of figure this out. As of this recording, we've been able to piece together a few of the people that are going to show up, but there's some potential for some of these wrestlers to be breathing fire during the show, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they have a guy called the Demigod of Death, Funny Bone, on the card, so I'd say he's a real possibility for breathing fire.
Certainly, yeah. And like you mentioned, there's some of the Martinez Lucha guys are in there too. So we don't know any of the matches right away, but there's some. I mean, there's some talent for sure on the show. It's a matter of how is that talent going to get utilized? What kind of show is it going to be? But yeah, it's not lacking of talent, not at all.
No, not at all. If they actually want to have a wrestling show, they could put together a pretty decent show. I anticipate it's probably just going to be a wrestling while burlesque and fire breathing is going on at the same time. Like, people can kind of walk around and do what they're doing, because this soccer center they're in is a pretty massive building, because it's a full-blown indoor soccer arena. So I'd be guessing that they're going to be doing multiple things at the same time and just sort of like a party atmosphere. But if they want to have a dedicated pretty good wrestling show where people pay attention and give a shit, they have potential to do something. I just don't think they're going to actually do that.
Yeah, we got Mil Muertes is apparently going to be there. Bestia and Damien 666 are going to be there. Mecha Wolf announced as well. So yeah, there's talent there. There's good wrestlers, and hell, if they have, I mean, if you're able to get Mil Muertes, the Mecha Wolf and Bestia and Damien or whatever, then you probably have access to a lot of the luchadors if they're already there, if they're going to be near that area. So there's the real potential for this too. I kind of do wish that this one had a little bit more announced, because I think my if I were going to WrestleMania weekend, I think I might target most of the lucha shows this year, because I think there's enough fun in these lucha shows. There's wrestlers you haven't seen 10,000 times live. That atmosphere, obviously being in Texas, you're in a pretty big hub for Lucha Libre as well. So I think it would be kind of cool to go in and just kind of take in that atmosphere and watch as many of the lucha shows as possible. So yeah, this is one that I wish we knew a little bit more about and we had enough confidence to say, hey, this is going to be a great lucha show. But it's hard to say that right now, and that kind of sucks, because if you're getting in on Thursday, this would be a hell of a way to start the show, and especially being in Arlington, Texas, if you're especially if you're going to do WrestleMania weekend or actual WrestleMania, if you're actually going to do some of the Texas Mania stuff, a lot of it's going to happen in that same area. So yeah, if you're already in the Arlington area, right, outside of Dallas, this would be a hell of a show to go to. But it's hard for me to I don't know what it's going to be, but hey, you know what, maybe for the first show to do, and you show up to WrestleMania weekend, you need a fun little show, this might be a good one to kind of start out on, in that you don't really know what it's going to be, and it might be a blast or it might be a disaster, but that's going to set the stage for the entire weekend, right?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a fun time if you're not a hardcore wrestling fan. You're just looking to have a good time. Getting in town Thursday, decide you want to see some fire breathing and some random lucha wrestling. I mean, there are worse ways you could spend a Thursday night. For
sure. So that is, again, at 8 p.m. on Thursday, March 31st. Then we'll jump over to Friday, April 1st, one of the afternoon events on Friday, ZOWA Pro. 3 p.m. From the Regalia Theater as well in Fort Worth, Texas. Now, this is an interesting one that I'm glad that you and I are going to talk about, because you and I have both gone to ZOWA Pro shows, which you might say, well, that's strange. Yes. How have you gone to ZOWA Pro shows? Well, they run in Chicago and Milwaukee and that region, more, the Chicago suburbs, some places out in the suburbs of Wisconsin and Milwaukee as well. But yeah, I guess my question to you, Jack, is, we have both been to ZOWA Pro shows because we live in those regions that they usually run, but they're running WrestleMania weekend in Texas, and I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah, it's really inexplicable why they're running here, because if you look at their past of running shows, it's all in that Midwest Wisconsin, Milwaukee area. They ran a random show in Nebraska last year, but other than that, it's been pretty consistently in the Midwest area. The best way I can describe ZOWA Pro is it's kind of a similar promotion to what Warrior was going for, but with lesser names, and then they don't try as hard. But they still can have a decent show if you come in with low expectations and just try to have a fun time. Like I said about the burlesque thing, there are worse ways you can spend a night. I mean, it's not your first choice, but it's a decent enough time.
Yeah, I've of the stuff I've seen with them, I've enjoyed. Like you said, you can't go in thinking you're going to get peak, Dragon Gate USA. You're not getting Dragon Gate USA from ZOWA Pro. It's right around It kind of like, Freelance in Chicago is a pretty decent comp there too, where like they book some names that are solid. They also book some, local people. And yeah, the shows are usually like, they're not totally, a giant joke or whatever. They're not like, something like that, but at least they don't take themselves too seriously. They're kind of in between. They're somewhere in between, kind of a ha-ha, nudge, wink, wink, nudge, nudge promotion and like a real deal kind of wrestling promotion. And I think they do it in a decent way. And there's a delicate balance with it. And you can kind of see that from this show as well, which is honestly, legitimately, and I mean this earnestly, one of the better cards of WrestleMania weekend. And we talked about this. I don't know if that says more about WrestleMania weekend than it does about Zelo Pro, but like, it's a pretty full card. It's got a lot of wrestlers that are good, and I don't know. I guess this might be one of the better shows of the weekend, which is again got me a little worried here. But you got Pretty Proper versus GPA and Lainey Luck, Chelsea Green versus Rachel Ellering, Shazza McKenzie versus Hyon, the Natural Classics versus the Bang Brothers, Simon Gotch versus Davey Richards. Man, wow, what a match! And then Warhorse versus Stephen Wolf. So. I mean, it's not a great card. It's not, it's not gonna, remind you of Super Card of Honor from, 2006 or whatever. But like, it's solid. There's some good wrestlers on there, and there's some matches that I'm very fascinated. Like Simon Gotch and Davey Richards, I kind of laughed a little bit when that one was going on. I mean, what a bizarre booking that is. But I'm kind of fascinated on seeing how that all works out.
Yeah, that's a match where like there's a 50% chance that it could devolve into a shoot, which is very intriguing. Like, it's not a match that you'd think would be good for Davey. Like you're not dream matching like Dave Richards and Simon Gotch together off the top of your head. But when you think about it, it's actually like, oh yeah, that could be like pretty good. If they actually like can cooperate with each other, or if they don't, I mean, then it could be good too.
Yeah. Like, if they choose violence, that could also rule. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that match could be really good. And then like there's, like you said, there's other like bigger names mixed in here. Like they have Warhorse, Chelsea Green, Rachel Ellering, Stephen Wolf, Evolve stuff. Like they have some names on this show, which is like a difference from the other like super like shindy promotions that are running that we were talking about before. Like they are like a half legitimate operation. I mean, it's still baffling why they're here, but like they're putting on a good card despite not running in the area ever.
Yeah, I'll give them credit. Like there's there's a lot of reasons to just kind of take this thing easy and not even really care that much. But what's really cool is there are a lot of guys that they book locally as well that are making the trip there. So I don't know if like the reason why they're making the trip is because of Zelo Pro, or they just so happen to be there, so they decided to book them. But like Stephen Wolf, obviously a Zelo Pro regular, usually in the area pretty frequently. GPA, he's very, very in line with Zelo Pro and the Midwest, and Lainey Luck, obviously, who we talked about in some of the Texas stuff. She's here all the time and doing stuff all the time, but then also, like you said, blending it with your Chelsea Greens, your Rachel Ellering. So it feels like an authentic Zelo Pro show, which is really weird because a lot of times when these weird companies come to Mania Weekend and there's really no reason for it, a lot of times they don't feel that authentic. This one feels like a legitimately one that you and I could have easily attended this exact lineup in Wisconsin or in Chicago. So, to their credit, like they might, maybe somebody goes to the show and says, hey, this Zelo Pro thing's pretty cool. And maybe they start checking, they become fans of the promotion overall. I mean, that's a distinct possibility that can happen. I mean, this is a very proper representation of what Zelo Pro is. And I'll give them credit on that.
Yeah, I mean, Zelo Pro, they even stream a couple shows on Fight once in a while. Like, not every show, but they've streamed a couple shows on Fight over the last 2 years. Yeah. So, theoretically, they could gain fans, like, who are deciding to attend live, who have never heard of the promotion before, and then they see this promotion on Fight, 6 months down the line and think, hey, yeah, I'll give it a purchase. Why not? Yeah,
so good on them for and it's a card that looks different from a lot of other cards on this weekend as well, which is always a tough thing on WrestleMania weekend, is so often things just kind of meld together and every card just kind of feels like it's the same sort of thing and the same, couple of wrestlers or whatever. This one does not feel that way. It does feel very unique and very different. So good for them for their show on 3 p.m. On Friday, April 1st. But Jack, that's it for you and I. Those are the shows that you and I were going to cover and preview here. Before I let you go, though, what are you looking, we've been, somewhat negative here and there. What are you looking forward to from this WrestleMania weekend? You said there was maybe 15 or so matches you're going to watch. Is there a show that maybe has more of the matches that you want to check out, or there full shows you want to check out? What's got you interested in WrestleMania weekend this year?
So there isn't much, like we were kind of talking about earlier. Some of the Texas Mania stuff I want to check out just to get a vibe of like the local like local scene. And then some of those Lucha shows, whatever one of those will make tape, I would be interested in checking out. I'm sure if there's something on live and I'm around and, you know, I can watch it easily, I'll give it a watch, but I'm not going to go out of my way. There's nothing as of yet that's going to make me go out of my way and seek anything out or anything like that.
Yeah,
it'll kind of just be whatever happens with this Mania weekend.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good way to approach this Mania weekend is like, if you're home and you're not doing anything, yeah, put it on, you know, have it as background noise. It's still a shit ton of wrestling. You know what I mean? Wrestling is still wrestling at the end of the day. But yeah, if you know, this is not something to change your plans for. This is not something to make sure that you're home for. This is not one of those weekends. It's not the weekend where I say, oh, if you're not going to this, you know, weekend, if you're not flying down to Texas, you're an idiot. Like, you're going to miss so many great things. I said that about prior years. I said that about the most recent New Orleans one. I said about the last Dallas one as well, of like, if you're not going to this, like, you're an idiot. Like, what are you doing? Get there as soon as possible. Like, I'm not going. I'm an idiot. Don't do what I'm doing. You know, go. And this one, I can't recommend that. But yeah, if you're not doing anything, you know, on Friday and Saturday, and, you know, why not? It's wrestling. At the end of the day, you know, it's still pro wrestling. So there's still some enjoyment to be had there. But all right, Jack. Before we go, any plugs you want to get out of the way? Anything you wanted to talk about before we bid adieu?
Nothing much. Just my Twitter, Packerman120. Nothing really working on right now. Have been thinking of some of my stuff to write about lately, but with wrestling the way it is right now, I'm kind of just not exactly the most enthused about it. I don't want to come across as bitter, but I've been brainstorming some ideas.
Well, definitely want to write up these insane hardcore wrestling shows that will never make tape.
Yeah,
so how about you promise to review them right now, and then when they make tape, you can review them.
Yeah.
So.
That could be a promise that could come back to bite me.
That's true. Maybe don't do that. Yeah, just in case. Yeah. But Jack, thank you so much for coming on here and help us preview a little bit of WrestleMania weekend.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
And joining us now to help preview WrestleMania weekend, it's Taylor Mainburg. Taylor, how's it going?
Hi, it's so good to be here. This is like one of my favorite traditions of WrestleMania weekend is doing these previews with you. So very excited and happy to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah, you if it's your first time listening to WrestleMania weekend previews, you are in for a segment because Taylor usually picks the potpourri of the biggest shit he can possibly find. When that doc goes up, it is amazing to see the name. You know, you see Taylor's face pop up, and then it's like boom, boom, and like the dumbest, stupidest shows that nobody knows what it's about. Nobody knows if it's even running. No one's sure if it's an E-Fed just masquerading as something running WrestleMania weekend. But we're going to talk about it here in the next next 40 minutes or so. So always a very fun segment, always a highlight of these shows. This potpourri, this smorgasbord of shit that Taylor's going to talk about here. But before we get into all those terrible, terrible shows, we're going to touch on a little bit about yourself. And I think last time we plugged the podcast, but we'll do it again. Jumping Bomb Audio at JBomb Audio, a member of the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. You were the co-host of our Japanese women's wrestling, the Joshi Show, on the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. So you want to plug away a little bit about that, and then we'll get to WrestleMania weekend?
Yeah, I do that show every other week with my excellent co-host, Kelly Harris. We love doing it. We talk about pretty much every Joshi promotion in existence from top to bottom. Stardom, Tokyo Joshi, Ice Ribbon, Seedling, Marvelous, Wave, all of them. Even we talked a little about LLPWX, which I think has run one show in the last 5 years. We talked about them a couple weeks ago. So it's a really fun show. We have a great time. We do reviews, previews, news, and everything in between. So lot to talk about almost every episode.
Yeah, and it's a grow. I mean, that market. I mean, 2020 was not a great year for anybody or any form of wrestling, but Joshi seemed to definitely grow in that time. And then, 2021 kind of kept up that growth. And 2022 seems like it's been a big, a continued momentum for, everything, particularly Stardom and Tokyo Joshi Pro, just having, big time shows, big time, getting a little bit more publicity, getting a little bit more coverage. So, it's a very important show on the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network, and I'm glad because you guys do a tremendous job. And the remarkable thing is you guys are universally loved by everybody that listens to you, which is a rare feat in both podcasting and Joshi, but you guys have done it. 100% approval rate. So
yeah, it's very annoying. And we finish every episode and people come out and they're like, we love the episode.
Why are you guys so
and
right?
We're like, we're like, we know we're doing a great job, but can you give us any constructive feedback? They say we don't have any constructive feedback for you.
You guys nailed every point.
Anything better.
I agreed with everything you guys said. So just keep up the great work. So yeah, it's remarkable that you guys were able to do that in this landscape the way it is. But congratulations to you guys at Jumping Bomb Audio. Again, at JBomb Audio. You can also listen to them on the Voice Wrestling Podcast Network. All right, so let's get into these shows. We'll start with Thursday, March 31st, with the Reality of Wrestling and WCPW Texas Showdown Day 1. And this is available to watch live. So we're going to preview this, and you're going to be able to watch this live on Fight TV, voicewrestling.com/fight. It is also part of the Reality of Wrestling Texas bundle on Fight. So if you want to watch all of these Reality of Wrestling shows, boy, do I got the place for you, voiceswrestling.com/fight, to order the entire bundle here. But we'll start with Texas Showdown Day 1, 7 p.m. on Thursday, March 31st, from Southern Junction, Texas, in Irving, Texas. You got Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and Ryan Davidson versus Max Castellanos, Charlie Haas, and Clayton Bloodstone. You have Savage King versus Flex Zerba, AQA versus Kelsey Reagan, Heather Monroe versus Katie Forbes, Culture Inc. versus Murder Inc. Ja Rule will be there. That's pretty cool. Jay Alexander versus Wayne Black, and wow, this is a very interesting show. So the big question is, will RVD and Booker T be coming out to their horrendous mashup theme that they used in WWF? I really hope so, only to anger Andrew Rich, Music of the Mat host Andrew Rich, because that is one of the worst mashup themes in wrestling history. But we'll see. I guess we'll find out on Thursday, March 31st, 7 p.m. from Southern Junction, Texas.
My favorite thing about this, you mentioned that it's part of the Texas bundle on Fight TV. It's one of 3 bundles that Fight is offering. The first one is the collective bundle that they always do. The other is like a mishmash of like the New Japan event and a couple other events.
It's mostly WrestleCon stuff. Yeah, it's mostly stuff based in that Fairmont Hotel or whatever. So it makes sense.
But the collective stuff is like $175 for 8 events or something. Then the other one is $125 for 7 events. I believe the ROW Texas bundle is $15 for 6 events.
Yeah, because I think it's $30 actually. $30.
Okay, for 6 events though, right?
As far as I can tell, they maybe have updated that. I can only see 3 events on the list right now.
Oh, interesting. But still, for a value,
not bad. You're getting the Sherry Martel Classic, Texas Showdown Day 1, and Texas Showdown Day 2. I mean, for $30, not bad. You're going to be able to see Murder Inc. Wrestle, the debut of Murder Inc. Yes.
I have to say, in that main event, a lot of big names, but I was drawn in by Ryan Davidson, who was a one-time DDT Gaijin, who for some reason I can never forget. I thought he was, he was fine in DDT, but for some reason, it's just a name that I'm like, oh yeah, Ryan Davidson, when I'm sitting here thinking, oh, I forgot I was supposed to, mail this letter. I can't remember to do that, but I can remember all about Ryan Davidson's 2 weeks in DDT in 2017 or something like that. So I'm excited to see him in an American wrestling match.
Yeah, it's all these reality wrestling shows are just very they're strange. They're a weird blend of like people that Booker T is friends with, which is good. I mean, that's a good way to get people in the door. Having Rob Van Dam is a great way to get people in there. Booker T himself wrestling, great idea as well. And then like a weird combination of like a lot of his trainees and stuff, like AQA, probably his more famous trainee right now. But I mean, if you're looking for, all jokes aside, like if you're looking to watch guys that you've maybe never seen before, women you've never seen before, this is a good opportunity. I mean, most of the Booker T trainees that I've seen are pretty solid. Like they're pretty good at a baseline. They're competent. Booker T I think is a pretty decent trainer. So you're going to see a bunch of people that you've never seen before, and who knows, you might be seeing somebody that in the next few years, is doing. Because I mean, a couple years ago you may have seen a reality wrestling show and seen AQA on there and went, wow, she's got a bunch of potential. And now you've seen, over the last year, she's really grown and become, one of the more hot prospects on the indie scene as well. So are they like, standout cards that you want to go out of your way to check out? Probably not, but I don't know. I tend to think this is a pretty fun series of shows, these Texas Showdowns Days 1 and 2.
And I'll say this, their information, as we talk more about these other shows, their information was fairly easy to find, and they have a full card published as of today.
And believe it or not, that's a lot to ask for. I mean, that might seem...
You can't say that for everyone.
Right, that might seem like an obvious thing, is make it easy for fans of your product or potential fans of your product to find out what you're doing and when it's going to be, and also what matches are going to be on there. That might seem like the bare minimum, but trust us, folks, that's not the bare minimum. That is an accomplishment for Reality of Wrestling here for doing that. So that is day one. Anything else on day one that kind of stands out to you, or are you ready to move on to day two?
No, I mean the main event, and then as you mentioned, the AQA match, which I think will be fun. I hope that AQA gets a lot of showcase. There's not a lot of big name women on this weekend, so she might end up having a good opportunity to sort of stand above the rest.
Definitely, yeah, and it's in her home territory, her home area as well. So you're absolutely right, though. Yeah, looking at like the women's matches this weekend, like there's a bunch of guys, like there's Brian Keith and Nick Wayne and a few other guys that are like, wow, these guys are on a bunch of shows, and they could definitely leave this weekend as like kind of top. But you look at the women, and yeah, it's a pretty dire state right now in terms of women's independent wrestling. So yeah, I am fascinated to see how, who does emerge, because someone will emerge. I mean, no matter what, it's WrestleMania weekend. Somebody will emerge, but AQA seems like a great potential to be that in this year's WrestleMania weekend. So looking forward to that. So let's move on to Texas Showdown Day 2. That's going to be on Friday, April 1st at 11 a.m., kicking off nice and early on Friday at 11 a.m. Also from Southern Junction, Texas, Irving, Texas, a part of, as we mentioned, the Reality of Wrestling Texas bundle here. You have a match that, man, I am looking forward to, and maybe I shouldn't, but I am, so too bad. SWE Heavyweight Championship Steel Cage match. Charlie Haas, the champion, versus Tim Storm. Taylor, what? Excuse me? Charlie Haas is the SWE Heavyweight Champion? What is SWE? I don't care. He's facing Tim Storm in a cage match. That rocks.
I will always have a soft spot for Tim Storm after his because of his NWA stuff, so I'm with you. I'm all in on this match, and it will probably be one of those matches where you're like, I wasn't very good, but I had a good time, which is sort of the Tim Storm guarantee.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and it feels like with Tim Storm the way he is, like, there's no doubt that the crowd is going to be 1,000% behind Tim Storm. And even if the match isn't good, they're going to be rooting like hell for him to win, because he just has that way about him, because he's Tim Storm. He's just like your uncle that, beats people up, and he rocks. Like, he's the best. I love Tim Storm. But that's not the only cage match, though, on Texas Showdown Day 2. So if you are into cage matches, boy, do I have the show for you for the Reality of Wrestling Championship Steel Cage, Mysterious Q versus Will All Day. So back-to-back cage matches here on Texas Showdown Day 2. Are you looking forward to this one as much as the Charlie Haas Tim Storm?
I like Mysterious Q, but he's one of the people that falls into the category of I only see them during WrestleMania weekends. I feel like I have never seen a non-WrestleMania weekend Mysterious Q match.
Yeah, he was a big part of last year's IWTV WrestleMania weekend. Obviously, IWTV not having anything on this year's WrestleMania weekend, which is a little disappointing, because I think they had pretty good output last year. But I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, if you watch some Texas Indies, you will stumble upon him a bunch. But yeah, he's a guy that I'm kind of the same way. Like, I probably have seen him maybe a few times in between, but like nothing memorable. But then on WrestleMania weekend, I'm like, oh yeah, Mysterious Q, here you go. There. So I think this is a good weekend for him to maybe showcase a little bit more. He's not booked as much as I thought he was going to be booked, but this will be an interesting one to see what he does here with the ROW Championship here against Will All Day. Real quick, I'll go over the rest of the card, and then we can work our way through that. Gino Medina versus Chavo Guerrero Jr., Gigi Ray versus Micah Madrid, Nobi Bryant versus Cam Cole, Max Castellanos versus Moonshine Mantel, Fly Def and AQA versus the Hitmakers with a Z, the former Hit Row. And so that's the Brian Keith also scheduled to appear. A few other names scheduled to appear. Kenny King, Jacob Fatu listed as well. Just couldn't figure out what matches to put those guys in yet, I guess. But as far as the other part of the card, is there anything else that stands out to you, or anything else that you're looking forward to from this Day 2 of Texas Showdown?
The very popular and successful Hitmakers, who I've heard so much about, and I have never seen wrestle in any capacity. Opening. Maybe this isn't the order of the card, but interesting to see them here on this show. And also disgraced former AEW manager Chavo Guerrero.
Yes, very successful AEW manager Chavo Guerrero. Yeah, the Hitmakers is going to be an interesting one to see, because they will They'll have appeared. Well, so no, this is their first. This would be it because they are going to be at For the Culture later on Friday, I think. Right? Let me double check what when For the Culture is, because that would be their other major booking of the weekend. Let me just make sure, because this could be either the first. I want to make sure because it's an important distinction here. So, so this will be the match we're talking about here is going to be their first ever, sort of indie match in and that's going to be very interesting to see for them, because it's a matter of, a lot of times when people leave WWE, it can go one of two ways. There's either the, fuck you, we're going to prove that you shouldn't have fired us. We're going to prove that we belong. We're going to get back to where, that sort of mentality for the indies. A lot of guys have that. Drew McIntyre, maybe one of the more famous ones in recent history, that was just like, well, fuck you. I'm going to prove that you made a mistake, and you're going to welcome me back with open arms as quickly as possible. And that's absolutely what happened for him. But it can also go the other way, where they walk into the Southern Junction, Texas on, Friday at 11 a.m. and go, what the fuck is this? No, we're not doing it. You know what I mean? Like, and have just no real interest in going out there. And especially somebody like, Top Dollar, who's only wrestled like 10 matches ever. He's 100% a performance center guy, and was in the NFL and all that sort of stuff. Is it gonna feel beneath him to go to Southern Junction, Texas, and wrestle in front of, it's 11 a.m. at Friday, April 1st. There might be 55 people there. There might, you know what I mean? Like, there might not be that many people. And is Hit Row, or the Hit Makers, are they going to say, fuck it, we're just still going to prove that you did us wrong, and we're going to come back and we're going to prove that you were, that we belong? Or are they going to kind of say, you know what, this is stupid, wrestling's dumb? So it can go one of two ways. I have no idea, and I guess that's the fascinating thing with them, because you can't predict what's going to happen with post WWE wrestlers.
Yeah, and it could be the third category, which is they say, haha, we're going to come out and prove how good we are, and they come out and they stink. That's
also a possibility. Yeah, they could think they're doing well, and then they end up not being great. So that's definitely a very, very real possibility there. But so again, it's an interesting card. It is kind of the similar style to day one, where it's a lot of trainees, local wrestlers in Texas, and then like Booker T's friends and some other kind of top tier ish like indie wrestlers. It's a very odd mix of people, but I appreciate that. It feels like a very unique show on this WrestleMania weekend. There's a few people that are pretty much only wrestling on these ROW shows, but I'll be fascinated to watch them, and definitely keep one eye on them. I don't know if either of them I'll be watching live, because they're up against a few other shows at the same time, but it'll be interesting to see how that how they fare, and how many people are at these shows, and how they do on streaming, because they're certainly the tertiary. They're in the other tier below, like you said, WrestleCon and the GCW Collective package. But we'll see how they do. Hopefully, it's successful for them. But anything else on Texas Showdown?
I think we covered it all.
All right, now things get a little weird here with 7 p.m. on Friday. Now, okay, to give you an idea of what other shows will be occurring at this show, and what you need to... So you are a person that is attending WrestleMania Weekend, not you, Taylor. I know you're not going. I don't think anybody we're interviewing is actually going to WrestleMania Weekend, but okay. It's Friday, 5 p.m., you have New Japan's Lone Star Shootout. You have 7 p.m. Supercard of Honor. 7:30, you have the World on Lucha. Gringo Loco's the World on Lucha. 8 p.m., you have SmackDown. Maybe you're going to SmackDown. Okay, that's fine. You got the Martinez Lucha Libre thing at 8:30. You have Impact Wrestling at 9. You got the damn WWE Hall of Fame, if that matters to you. But in the midst of all that stuff going on, you have Texas-style wrestling Unfoolish Business. 7 p.m. From something called 4700 West Grove in Addison, Texas. And oh boy, is this Taylor? This is a show. That's the best way I can put it. There are people on this show, and it is a wrestling show. And it's I don't know if I'm skipping Ring of Honor or a Lucha show to see this, but I don't know, man. What's your read on Texas style wrestling before we get into the actual matches themselves?
Well, if you're a big AEW Dark Rache Chanel fan, maybe you would skip New Japan to come to this show. But this is just it's a weird show where they brought people in, but they sort of brought people in who I don't think anyone will really care about going to see, I can't imagine. Like, they sort of went halfway to being like, oh, well, we need to draw people in somehow. And then
they booked Selena De La Renta as like the draw. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, yeah, I like Selena De La Renta, but like, I don't know if I'm skipping, if I'm like, man, I really want to go to Ring of Honor, but man, they have, They have La Rebellion. I mean, I don't know. It's a tough choice. Like, it's a weird show for sure. So let's, you're right. You nailed it exactly. It's like they booked names, but not names that you really like need to go out of your way to see. It's a strange one here, but you have Odison and Ivan Warsaw. Ivan Warsaw. What can you tell me about Ivan Warsaw?
The only thing I can tell is supposedly he was in NXT from 2012 to 2014, and I have no memory of who this person.
Zero recollection of Ivan Warsaw.
I thought, is this a different name for someone who was in NXT? And I couldn't find anything looking it up because I'm pretty sure. What was 2014? When did the network?
That would have been February of 2014 is when the network started. So yeah, I mean, he could have potentially been. I mean, I don't know when he left. He left the day, before they went on WWE Network. But yeah, presumably he could have been on NXT television. But I don't remember it for sure. So,
so that's really the only thing I can tell you about. He's still being advertised with the NXT logo against Odinson with the NWA logo. It's like NXT superstar appearing here.
That's awesome. I love wrestling. Wrestling's the dumbest shit ever. Dog Nation versus the Oh My Gods. Soda Pop Superfly Hendrix versus Tamilian Vanish. Misty Marks versus Riche Chanel. Misty Marks and Riche Chanel versus Gasolina, which is Selena De La Renta and Melina, correct? That the Gasolina tag team?
Melina and Selena and MLW producer Selena.
Yes, the first Latina producer of MLW. Yes, Alex Arsenal versus Damien 666. Haas Holding versus Ricardo Rodriguez. NWA Tag Team titles: La Rebellion versus Los Misfits. Frank Stone versus Bam Bam Malone, and Paulo Blaze versus Maria May. Now, didn't Ricardo say he was pulling out of all of his bookings because he's going to rehab?
Okay, this is going to be an issue we're going to come upon because I've seen at least 3 or 4 cards where Ricardo Rodriguez is advertised, and I thought the same thing you did, that he said, I had to pull out of all my bookings, but he's still being advertised for all of these shows. So either we're wrong or there's going to be some empty spots on a lot of cards.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because like his last tweet is, and it's Ricardo Rodriguez. He's obviously Alberto Del Rio's former manager, or whatever. He said, "Well, here we go. See you guys on the other side. The hardest part is going to be able to not be in the ring for this long, because if you know me, you know that's going to be one of the toughest parts. Love you all." That was 3 days ago. That does not sound like a man who is getting on a plane to go to Texas for a weekend of shows. If he says the hardest part is going to be not being in the ring for this long, so. Yeah, I don't know, because there's been like new announcements about Ricardo as well. Like some of these announcements came in the last few days, which is very, very strange. So I don't know if you were going to Texas Style Wrestling Unfoolish Business to see Ricardo Rodriguez, you might want to call ahead. Maybe it's the best way I can say. Ask for sure. Hey, is Ricardo going to be there? Because I don't know if he is. But yeah, what the hell is the rest of this card? This is Damien 666 just thrown in there randomly. La Rebellion in there as well. There's like fun names and good names, but it's just a very, very odd show that I cannot imagine anybody going out of the way to watch. But I don't know.
I have to say that I'm a little bit thinking this might not be a great show, because in the Misty Marks, Riche Chanel versus Gasolina match graphic, whoever created the match graphic spelled Gasolina wrong. Spelled it, I believe, Gasnolia. Even though they are holding a gas can that says Gasolina on it in their promotional image. So directly below the misspelling is the correct spelling, which doesn't give me hope for the Ricardo Rodriguez booking or really much else of the card.
Oh my God, wrestling! Oh Jesus Christ! Well, there you go. That is Texas Style Wrestling, Unfoolish Business. We also have, if that's not enough for you, if you say, you know what, I'm done with this Texas Style Wrestling, I'm not going to this. I don't know if Ricardo Rodriguez is even going to be there. Luckily, at 7 p.m., we got something else for you. We have ZOWA Live, the 01 USA Live GuavaMania 2, Cover All Bases, from what I believe is a baseball training facility called Cover All Bases, Arlington, Texas, 7 p.m. on Friday. ZOWA Live Championship. Hartenbauer versus Manny Domingo, Bucky Collins versus Gary J, the ZOWA Tag Team titles, Country Air versus Fly Def, the ZOWA Ladies Championship, Missa Kate versus Raven Radix, Blair Onyx versus Devlin Macabre, Mr. Havens versus Jamie Holly, and Damon McLeod versus Dmitry Alexandrov. All right, Taylor, sell me on skipping Ring of Honor and skipping all these other shows to go to ZOWA Live, GuavaMania 2, cover all bases.
Gary J's on the show, so he probably will work hard.
Yeah, his chest will be red, and he'll make someone else's chest red, so that's cool.
Missa Kate, AEW Dark Superstar, will be defending her ladies championship. That's exciting.
I appreciate they still call it the Ladies Championship like it's like 1982, you know. The ladies are coming in to wrestle.
We got these ladies in the ring.
Right. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know why. I appreciate that they're coming, I guess, 01 Live. I mean, they mostly run in the Midwest. They mostly run, not necessarily even in my region. They mostly run kind of like Iowa area or like Western Illinois, Southern Illinois type stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is a winning proposition for an indie of 01 USA's size, but hey, they're going to give it a try on an absolutely ridiculously stacked Friday at 7 p.m. where there's like 7 other shows going on at the exact same time. So I wish them the best luck in Arlington, Texas. Cover all bases, but yeah, I don't. Not hopeful there's going to be a big crowd here for 01 of America. If you look for it, every day has a call for celebration. Celebrate a friend for their promotion, baby, wedding, life thing. Celebrate yourself for keeping the couch warm. It's no easy feat, especially if it's a big couch. Or maybe you just want to celebrate living in 2022 where you can get beer, wine, and spirits delivered from Drizzly in under 60 minutes without leaving said couch. Right now, Drizzly is giving all new customers $5 off their first order with code FAST5. So download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com, that's DRIZLY.com, and use the promo code FAST5 for $5 off your first order. Drizzly is the most convenient way to buy beer, wine, and spirits with delivery to your doorstep in under 60 minutes. Drizzly is the #1 app for alcohol delivery because the convenience of home delivery in under 60 minutes. You get it when you need it, and you can conveniently shop across stores so you can choose from a huge selection of alcohol, wine, spirits, beer, anything you possibly need. Get exactly what you want when you want, and you can also shop across multiple stores to compare prices and find the best deals for what you're looking for. So again, new users to Drizzly are getting, all new customers, every new customer, if you're a brand new customer, you're going to get this no matter what, $5 off your first order with the code FAST5. So you download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com, that's DRIZLY.com, and use the promo code FAST5 for $5 off your very first order. Drizzly, the #1 app for alcohol delivery. Again, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com, DRIZLY.com. Shinya Hashimoto's not walking through that door. That's all I have to say. I don't think that's happening. Masato Tanaka will not be there. I don't believe Steve Carino even will be there. So that, there you go. All right. So now one of the shows that I am looking forward to most this weekend, perhaps, if I was going to WrestleMania weekend, this would be a surefire have to go to this show. Martinez Entertainment. It is the Lucha show from Martinez Entertainment, 8:30 p.m., Upper 90 Soccer Center in Arlington, Texas. Hijo del Santo and Ultimo Dragon versus Hijo del Fishman and Shocker. Extreme Tiger and Crazy Boy versus Drago and Aerostar. And Michael Elgin and Psycho Clown versus Black Taurus and Laredo Kid. And then there's just like 30 other luchadors scheduled to appear. We'd be here all day listing them all. But those 3 matches all sound pretty damn... I mean, if you're a Lucha fan, or even if you're not a Lucha fan, I mean, you're going to see some big time... You're going to see some legends in Hijo del Santo and Ultimo Dragon and Hijo del Fishman. You're also going to see some, modern guys in terms of Drago, Aerostar. And then you're going to see the biggest star in Lucha Libre, Psycho Clown, and one of the best Lucha Libre wrestlers right now, Laredo Kid, and Black Taurus. So, I mean, this is a hell of a show, and it should be a really cool atmosphere. It's obviously, last time they were in Texas, the Martinez Entertainment ran, people that went there said it was like one of the more fun shows they went to because it was a Lucha atmosphere. Like most of the fans there were Lucha fans. Everybody brought noisemakers. Everybody was just going nuts and having a party atmosphere. You know, it was really unlike anything else on WrestleMania weekend. So yeah, I don't know about you, Taylor. I don't think it's being filmed as far as I know. I don't know if anybody is filming it or if it ever will appear, but this looks like a hell of a show. And if it was going to air anywhere, I would definitely make sure Friday at 8:30 I'd be around to check that out.
I think sometimes the Martinez Entertainment stuff ends up on YouTube at some point. I feel like I've watched some Martinez Entertainment matches. Usually it's things that they're trying to hype. They're like, look, we got so-and-so person, but not live, like a couple weeks later. This is a fun card, a wild, out-of-nowhere appearance by Michael Elgin, who I had almost totally forgotten about. And you're right, it could be like a Lucha Libre show, which are always super fun if the crowd is into it, even if the matches are not great, which I think some of these matches could be very good, and with some of the people that they've booked and haven't announced for matches yet. You know, that really lifts it up. You're there, you're at WrestleMania weekend, everyone's having a good time. Like, this seems like the show would be a super fun time.
Absolutely, yeah, and the Michael Elgin thing is very strange. And this just, I think, appeared a couple days ago. This is only booking as far as I know. Let me double check to make sure. I mean, I haven't seen him in anything else, and there's not a whole lot of other places you can kind of hide or sneak in a Michael Elgin on these shows. So yeah, a wild Michael Elgin appearance here in a big-time match, teaming with Psycho Clown against Black Taurus and Laredo Kid. I mean, that is a highlight match of the weekend, just because of all those names in there. And whatever you think of Elgin, like, you know, in terms of like where he was as a star, where he was as a wrestler, I mean, that is still a really, really big match and a really big spot. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And yeah, I have no idea what's going to appear. I think you're right that the one a couple years ago did eventually show up somewhere, but doubt it'll be live. As far as I know, it's not going to be live, but definitely one that if you're going to be in the area, again, the highest recommendation from people that did go to the last Martinez Entertainment Lucha show that just said it was like one of the most weird and fun atmospheres of the entire Mania weekend. But yeah, big names, big time wrestlers on it, big time Lucha stars all over the card. So it looks like it could be a blast at the Upper 90 Soccer Center, 8:30 p.m. On Friday in Arlington, Texas.
And the good news is that most Lucha shows don't start on time. So if you have something earlier, this show might not start till 9:30 or 10.
Yeah, there's a very good chance. So yeah, if you are at you're at Gringo Loco's, I mean, you could presumably double dip on Gringo Loco's World on Lucha and Martinez promotion. So the problem, though, is Gringo Loco, they're also kind of an indie show. So there, you know what I mean? There's also the potential that they start late, too. So I don't know. You might be tough. It might be real tough to do both of them. I think they're about a half an hour away from each other. They start an hour apart. So that might get pretty tricky to do. But if you're at ROH Supercard of Honor, that should presumably start on time. So you might be done with that at 9:10 or whatever. So you can maybe still, head on over. Definitely if you're going to Lone Star Shootout, that's at 5 p.m. I think you could definitely get to the Upper 90 Soccer Center, barring, traffic, which I'm not aware of the current Texas traffic patterns or whatever. But I think that's, I think you should be able to be able to do that pretty easily. So, but yeah, it looks like a really, really fun show. So definitely be checking that one out. Then we'll move on to Saturday, April 2nd, World Class Pro Wrestling and Reality of Wrestling. They're back again here with the Sherry Martel Women's Classic. This is a part, of course, of the ROW Texas bundle here. 11 a.m. Southern Junction, Texas. Bright and early on April 2nd, Saturday, April 2nd. And it's a women's tournament. And first off, Taylor, before we get in the matches and the names or whatnot, how many of these people have you seen before? Or are you going in with the pretty fresh eyes on a lot of these people? Because there's a bunch of names here. I know a handful of the names, but there's a lot of people I've never seen before. I'm pretty interested to check this out because it's a good way to kind of discover new wrestlers.
I think I'm sort of trying to glance through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think like 7 or 8 of them I've seen, but some of them, when I say I've seen, like maybe I've seen a match or 2 matches or 3 matches. There's a good number of AEW Dark talent, which is a running theme with some of these shows. But it is interesting. It's a big opportunity for these wrestlers to stick out. There's no Shimmer on this WrestleMania weekend. There's usually Shimmer.
Right.
Big
Man, I didn't even think of that until you mentioned that. Wow, you're right. That's the first time in years there's no Shimmer. Wow, I didn't even notice. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's usually the thing that sort of takes up the space of like women's wrestling. Like, here's the women's wrestling, it's Shimmer, and Shimmer gets the best, 15 wrestlers, and they're all there, and that's not there. So this is really the sort of women's representation for the weekend, and they have 2 shows of this because I think they do the first round on one show. And then the second show, I don't remember exactly what the timing is.
Yeah, we were having trouble kind of figuring that out, which, we gave credit to Reality Wrestling earlier, but we were having a little bit of difficulty figuring out, is this just one show? Is it 2 shows? Exactly when is the other show? So I don't know if that's been updated as of the last little bit. I will see what I can do. As far as if you go on Fight, it just shows one show. It just shows the bell time at 11 a.m. on April 2nd. I think on the bundle it says the same. So I don't know if that changed, and maybe they're just packing it all into the one night. I have no idea. So if we're wrong, I apologize. But as far as I know, from what I can tell right now, it looks like it might just be a one night, one show tournament, or one day tournament, I should say, since it's happened at 11 a.m. But I swore there were 2 shows as well. I'm only seeing one show now. I don't know. So sorry. Again, do your research. Call ahead if you're trying to go to this, just to make sure, I guess, is the best way I can tell you. But go ahead. Yeah.
But yeah, it could be fun. And if, there's some upsets, I think there's more obvious, AQA is one that's sort of more obvious to probably get pretty far high on, maybe a Heather Monroe. But if there's upsets, someone in here who maybe is less well known could get 2 or 3 or 4 matches to really show what they can do.
Yeah, and there's some interesting matchups in the first round, so we'll go over these ones that we have here. We have Insidious 1 versus Promise Braxton, AQA versus Rachel Rose. Now, I find that a very interesting matchup, because Rachel Rose is someone that we've talked about on the flagship, somebody that Joe Lanza thinks has like all the potential in the world, and I think she's pretty damn good as well. So she's somebody that, like, if I was booking this thing, like, I'm booking her to move forward. Like, she's Texas-based, up and coming, getting more bookings as the weeks go on and the months go on or whatever. But she's in there against AQA, and you're absolutely right. Like, I don't know that you want AQA to lose in the first round of this either. So I'm very fascinated by this booking. Like, these are 2 people that I thought would go a little bit farther in this tournament, but they're putting them right out there right in that first round. So I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to have a really, really cool match, or like a showcase match of 2 of the best talents they have there. But I found that kind of interesting. Were you kind of taken aback that they're matched up in the first round as well?
Yeah, and it could be a thing where maybe, AQA, as we've already talked about, has other bookings. So maybe she comes in and she says, if this is going to be 3 or 4 matches, I don't have time, or I only want to wrestle this many matches. So I'm willing to lose to someone. And, we go out there and kill it and maybe get some buzz. And, Rose moves on, and I'm fine doing that because I have other bookings, from AQA's perspective.
Yeah, AQA might be in that position now where she's kind of putting the next generation over, which seems insane. She's like, I don't know what she's very young still. I forget exactly what her age is, but yeah, still pretty young. But you're right. I mean, she's got bigger spots on this weekend as well. So yeah, that might be a distinct possibility as well. Gigi Ray versus Hyon, Danny B versus Vert Vixen, Kelsey Reagan versus Micah Madrid, Jasmine Allure versus Amber Rodriguez, Erica Torres versus Skylar Slice, and then Jordan Blue versus Heather Monroe. So that's a pretty... Like you said, at the top of that bracket, the ones we mentioned there, AQA, High-End, Vert Vixen, Rachel Rose, are all people that I'd say a lot of people listening to this are probably aware of, but a lot of those names at the bottom there are probably pretty new to some people. So I guess it does present a pretty interesting opportunity for some of those people to move on in this tournament and get to the finals, get to the semifinals that you maybe have never seen before or never watched before. So that's always exciting and cool. It's one of the best parts of WrestleMania Weekend is discovering new talent. So I'm into that. All right, you ready to move on to Mission Pro Wrestling Bangers Only?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So 3 p.m. Saturday, April 7th from the Fair Park in Dallas, Texas. This is a part of the Collective, so this will be on the Collective bundle and all that sort of stuff over at voicesofwrestling.com/fight. This was looking pretty dire for a while when at one point, even like a week or so ago, Mission Pro Wrestling Bangers Only, the only thing was announced genocide was it. That was it. So it's like, oh, I don't know. But they came through pretty good. This is a pretty fun show, a pretty good women's show. Like you said, there is the issue of, with no Shimmer, there doesn't feel like there's that highlight women's event. This kind of becomes the de facto one, although I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't think we would put it on the same level as any sort of WrestleMania Weekend Shimmer show, but I think it's pretty damn solid here with Thunder Rosa versus Trish Adora as presumably your main event. I think it would have to be your main event. It's Thunder Rosa in Texas. she's the AEW Women's Champion. Like, come on, this is going to be a mega pop for her. Huge opportunity for Trish Adora as well to get some eyeballs on her work. Holidead versus Lufisto. Janai Kai versus Tasha Steelz. Bougie Reality versus Kylan King, AEW Dark Legend and Genocide. Masa Slamovich versus Lindsay Snow. La Rosa Negra versus Jody Threat. The Hex, Marty Bell and Sienna versus Lainey Luck. The Hex and Lainey Luck versus the Renegade Twins and Jasmine Allure, and then JP Harlow versus Alley Catch. But what do you think of this card? Because I think this is a pretty solid women's card as far as they can, as far as you can do in this WrestleMania weekend with this sort of talent level on the the women's scene in the American Indies right now.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty strong card, all considered. They got a lot of people who are not appearing a ton of. I mean, like Trish Adora, I don't think is appearing in all that many places. Tasha Steelz, I think, is really good. Janai Kai, I mean, I think that match with the two of them could be really good. Jody Threat is one of those who was getting sort of the hype was starting, I feel like, before the pandemic hit, because she's from Canada, and then the pandemic hit, and it was sort of like, whoa, you're going to have to wait. And interesting to me that I think this might be her only booking.
I think you're right too, which is weird because I see her a lot on AAW. She's here all the time, and she's solid as hell. This is her only booking. Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, she feels sort of like the hype that Chris Statlander was getting a few years ago before she signed with AEW, where it was like, oh, this is the the next person who's going to break out big, and it didn't happen through no fault of her own, obviously. But happy to see her here. Kylan King is in for an adventure, trying to wrangle Maddie Renkowski and Rashay Chanel and Genocide in a single match. Because I think Kylan King is really good. And I think she's head and shoulders above the other three in that match. I sort of wish she was like, I would have much more liked to see like Masha Slamovich versus Kylan King. I think that would be fun.
If I remember correctly, I think this is Kylan King's only booking of the weekend too, which is pretty wild. Yeah, this is not a good weekend for that's it for her. Wow. Yeah, I'm surprised by that too.
Like, it's just a weird thing where it's like, is this on purpose? But like, why would people go there? And
I'm
be
not
like,
going to Texas
sure,
to
I'll
work
take
one
one
show.
booking.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Unless I'm like, depending on what I'm getting paid. But I'd imagine whatever Kylan King is getting paid, that no, I'm not coming to Texas to work one show. You know what I mean? No, like, you forget it. It's kind of wild. So I'm surprised by some of the bookings here. And you alluded to it earlier, but the women, there's not a whole lot of women's shows and not a whole lot of women's showcases. A lot of shows don't have women on there, and there's some talented women that are going to be down there in Texas, and they're pretty much all put on a few of the shows that we just talked about here, and that's pretty much it. So not much women's presence for this year's Mania weekend.
Yeah, and like Masa Slamovich, I would think if she was coming down there and I had to book a women's match, she would be maybe one of my, maybe the first, but at least one of the first calls I would make, because I think she's in that sort of top group. There's sort of the top group, which I think of as like Thunder Rosa, obviously, Trish, Masha, and then there's like the AEW Dark crew, which is like Kylan King, Jasmine Allure, who's on this show, the Renegade Twins, work it, and then there's sort of like the American Indies women, which is a very small, like Alley Catch is one of them. I also think they weirdly could make that Alley Catch the main event, the Alley Catch match.
Oh my God.
I don't know why, but I could see it happen. With
Thunder Rosa on the show, that's a tough act to follow. Is Thunder Rosa, AEW, women's champion, Texas resident, she's out. All right, now that's the end of that match. All right, here's JP Harlow and Alley Catch. Yeah, that would be a thing. That would be a thing for sure. But yeah, WrestleMania weekends are weird. Sometimes other people have to go to other places and do other things. There was numerous Evolve shows where like the best match on the show was the opener because the guys had to go do something else or they had to go sign with NXT or whatever. So like you're like, all right, I guess Drew Galloway's like kicking the show off for some reason, and then there he is, in the crowd waving at Takeover. You're like, oh shit, all right, that makes sense now. So yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with that. But I think this looks like a pretty solid show. I mean, they delivered on their bangers only promise. I think they did. I don't know if it's only bangers, but there are some bangers on here. So good for them.
Yeah, it may not be only bangers. That I may take. That's a big. But a lot of good matches here.
Yeah, some bangers. It would have been better if they said Mission Pro. Mostly bangers, like some decent bangers. So, all right. So now we move on to this one. Will be quick. 4 p.m. from something called Tulips in Fort Worth. I don't know what that is, but in Fort Worth, Texas, it's called Tulips. 4 p.m. Rampage Wrestling. And Taylor, can you tell us what is on the Rampage Wrestling show?
No.
Oh, but it's in. It's in 7 days though.
The only thing we have is a poster that has Ricky Morton on it.
Okay, so we can we don't know, but we can kind of assume that Ricky Morton's going to be there.
The poster has a lot of pictures of people I do not recognize, a picture of Ricky Morton, and then says special guests from School of Morton. So if you're a devoted follower of the people coming out of the School of Morton, then this is the show for you.
Yeah, I am looking at this show right now. I'm looking at this poster that you're talking about, and I don't recognize one. Ricky Morton is the only person I recognize. Even
Ricky
slightly.
Morton, who helpfully says Ricky Morton and then has the WWE Hall.
Yeah, the one person they didn't actually have to tell you who it is. They told you who it was, but they didn't tell you anybody else. Yeah, that's we've tried. As of this recording, I promise you, we have tried. We have done all we can to figure out what the hell is going to be on this show, who is going to be on this show, why the show's occurring, and I'm sorry, that's all we have for you. So,
I think the only other thing I've seen is there's a trio of Amish wrestlers who I believe are looking for an opponent for a 6-man tag.
Okay.
But that's literally all I know.
All right. Well, yeah, make sure you're there.
Are you excited?
Yeah. So 4 p.m. 4 p.m. on Saturday. So if you're not going to WrestleMania, I mean, you're going to be free that night. So maybe head on over to Rampage Wrestling. You might maybe double dip. I mean, it might not be a long show. Who the hell knows? But Fort Worth, Texas, at something called Tulips in Fort Worth. So there you go for Rampage Wrestling. All right, that was quick. 7 p.m. Unsanctioned Pro Mulligan. This is going up head-to-head with WrestleMania, which I do appreciate. I do like the idea. Joe and I have always said on the Flagship that you should try to go up against WrestleMania because there are a lot of people that have no interest in actually going to WrestleMania. So I think it'd be kind of interesting to see how these shows do. And there's a few this year just deciding, hey, fuck it, we're going to go head-to-head with Mania. This one, Unsanctioned Pros Mulligan, taking place from the Fair Park in Dallas, Texas. That's where all the collective stuff is happening. So it will be on the collective bundles. It'll be up on voicesofwrestling.com/fight. It's Billy Starks versus Christian Robinson, Robert Martyr versus Charlie Tiger, Big Vin versus Casanova Valentine, the Ohio State Championship, Trey Lamar versus To Be Decided, Brian Keith versus Lexus Montez versus Kevin Blackwood. What are your thoughts on Unsanctioned Pro Mulligan?
Bottom two could be interesting. I didn't know that there was an Ohio State Championship. But could be a fun match with Trey Lamar and then Brian Keith and Kevin Blackwood in a match. Sounds interesting.
I just wish it was those two. I mean, no offense to Lexus Montez, but I don't know, Brian Keith versus Kevin Blackwood sounds like an awesome match. Just do that. Just have that match.
Yeah, although looking at the rest of the card, I'm like, I guess I'll take what I can take what I can get.
Yeah. But this does not look like one that's going to pull you away from doing too much here. But that's there you go. On Unsanctioned Pro Mulligan. Then we have Lucha Maniacs in the Upper 90 Soccer Center, another Lucha show from the Upper 90 Soccer Center. This is at 8 p.m. as well, so we'll be going head-to-head with Mania and a few other shows as well. Upper 90 Soccer Center is in Arlington, Texas. You have Black Toros versus ACH. You have Decimus versus Juventud, Araya, and Gringo Loco. So those three are together versus Lince Dorado, ASF, and Aramis. You have Myron Reed versus Arrowboy versus Tristan Ty versus Black Destiny. You have Cuervo versus Tony Deppen. You have the NWA Tag Team titles. Man, these things are getting defended all this weekend. It's the Rebellion again versus Jesus Christ, I don't even know how to pronounce this. What is this? Epidemius and Epidemius Jr., I guess. All right, let's go with that. Sure. IWC Legacy Cruiserweight Championship, Ray Leone versus Mr. Leo, Jonathan Lopez, Aragon, Brillante RB, Dill Dempsey versus Arej, Chick Tormenta, Mini Absimo Negro, and Black Danger. There's a lot of things that I've never heard of on this show that sound interesting. I don't know. I'm pretty fascinated by this show. This Black Taurus and ACH is an incredible random, only on WrestleMania booking that you could possibly have. So I'm into that. I don't know. There's some stuff on the show that I like, but it's also a very bizarre show. Where are you at with the show?
I think it's a fun mix of people you've heard of with people you've never heard of, which in Lucha often means that it's just going to be people trying to do crazy shit in every match, which also means that it will either be great. Like you have like Erez on the show, ASF, Myron Reed, like all these people who you're like, they're going to go out, they're going to kill it, they're going to do well. And then a bunch of people I'm like, I have never... Brillante, RB, Dill Dempsey, I don't know who these people are. But there's enough talent where I'm like, I think it will either be really fun in a good way or like a fun train wreck.
For sure. Yeah, and that's, a lot of the Lucha shows that I've seen, you're absolutely right. There's people that you've never seen before, but because everybody tries so hard, they don't go there and like loaf. They're like, well, shit, I better try pretty hard too and do some crazy shit because, the next match up, everyone's going to do some crazy shit. So I better do some crazy shit. And that usually leads to pretty fun shows. So, this is the same situation where I don't know that it's streaming live anywhere. I don't know how you can watch this live, but I do hope it is going to get taped and it is going to be up here somewhere because there's definitely some stuff that I'm very interested in seeing. And it's an absolute travesty that this is ACH. What is one of two bookings for ACH, which is just like, how did that happen? Like, what are we doing? Why does Riche Chanel get like 6 bookings and ACH only has 2? Like, what's going on? Or maybe this is his only booking. Is this his only booking? I think this might be his only booking. What are we doing? It's ACH. I guess he did. It's possible that ACH didn't want to do any other bookings. That's possible too. It is ACH. But still, I cannot imagine that there was no other place that wanted to book ACH this weekend. But hey, Lucha Maniacs benefit here. They get a huge main event here with Black Toros and ACH. So into that for sure. All right, then we go to something called Metroplex versus the World at 8:30 p.m. on this Saturday, this Absolute Stack Saturday, at something, or I guess this is an address, 510 Hardwood Road in Bedford, Texas, which let me just make sure this isn't a house. Okay, it appears to be, so it appears to be a haunted house on Google Maps. It looks like, so it's an abandoned strip mall. So I don't know if it's happening in one of the buildings in the strip mall, if it's happening in the locker or in like the parking lot of this abandoned strip mall. There also appears to be some sort of plumbing company or hardware store in this. So I don't know where that's happening. Maybe in the haunted house. I have no idea. It's Metroplex versus the World. And Taylor, take it away. What can we look forward to on Metroplex versus the World?
I was going to say maybe Dax lives on Harwood Road.
Right.
We can look forward to, this is another one with a poster, but big news. I not only recognize one person, I recognize 2 people.
I think I have 3. I think I can add 3 to this.
Oh, interesting. Because Chris Bay, who's the big announced talent. Gary J.
I believe that's Max the Impaler to the left of him in the weird mask as well. So there you go.
Interesting. Yes. Now that you say that, you're totally right. It's sort of hard to tell on this poster because they're in the back, and from far away it looks like a shape.
Yes.
But you may be right. That's 3.
Yeah.
But Chris Bay, the big star, for Metroplex versus MPX versus the World.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Maybe
so I don't.
They should announce some matches.
They're running a show on March 19th, so I guess they're putting a lot of their work into that one. But I don't know. That's done now. So maybe put some work into letting us know who's on this one. So
March 19th was days ago.
Yes, I am aware. Yes, I know. I'm just, potentially they're exhausted from that show. They're just like, I can't even think of what's coming up next week. We just had that show 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I don't, this is very strange, but there you go. So you can see Chris Bay. So if that's got enough for you, then Metroplex versus the World, 8:30 on Saturday. Finish out your Saturday with a bang here in Bedford, Texas. But then one last show that we're going to talk about here. This initially was listed as like a wrestling show, but now I think it's been converted to just a convention. I have no idea. Sunday, April 3rd, 9 a.m., bright and early, Texas Legends Convention at Southern Junction, Texas is where all the ROW stuff is happening as well. This is at 9 a.m. Scheduled to appear Texas Legends, Bruce Pritchard, Booker T, Stevie Ray, JBL, future WWE Hall of Famer, I think at this point will be a WWE Hall of Famer, Queen Sharmell, Demolition, I don't know which iteration of Demolition, but I guess, somebody from Demolition, Chavo Guerrero Jr., Virgil, Tim Storm, Iceman King Parsons, Eric Embry, Al Perez, Gary Young, Brian Adias. Yeah, it's going to get a little... Now you're going to start saying, wait a minute, are these guys Texas legends? And you're right to maybe consider that maybe some of these people are not Texas legends. Black Bart, Steve Cox, Action Jackson, Alex Porto, Rod Price, Chico Cabela, Len Denton, Scott Casey, James Beard, Che, who I believe is Nitro Girl Che, and Nitro Girl Spice as well. So Che and Spice joining the legends on this Texans Legends convention. This, I don't know. Sounds kind of cool, I guess.
Iceman King Parsons got me because I was like, whoa. I also, if you probably would have asked me before looking at that list, I would have thought that he was dead. I don't know why, but that's an exciting name. Queen Charmel, her first post Hall of Fame appearance, maybe.
Yeah, probably going to be asking for double the money now, because she's going to sign that autograph, WWE Hall of Famer Queen Charmel. So you got to pay up now.
Should have been listed above Bruce Pritchard.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think Bruce is even in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, she should have been the first one.
And Booker T and Stevie Ray.
Yes, Harlem Heat reunites. I mean, personally, 12-year-old me is most excited for Nitro Girl Che and Nitro Girl Spice. So yeah, if I was going, I might, I might go and check their booth out just to say hello, hi, how are you guys doing? That's yeah. Anyway, Nitro Girls are in the house. Tim Storm, I think I mentioned Tim Storm. That's good. Wrestling superstar Virgil. That's always a fascinating experience there. And I realized earlier I said, I don't know which iteration of Demolition, but it's probably the ones that are alive in Demolition. So yeah, Crush will probably not be there, but I guess if they got Crushed, that'd be a good get. That'd be a big get for the Texas Legends convention.
Maybe it's a hologram.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. So I realize my mistake now that there's probably only one version of Demolition that could show up there. But again, it's not listed, so you don't know. You don't know until you go to the Texas Legends convention. At 9 a.m. Man, what is Bruce Pritchard going to look like that night? He has WrestleMania the night prior, waking up at 9 a.m., do this fucking convention, and then he's got WrestleMania again, and he's probably up until 4 a.m. rewriting WrestleMania 700 times with Vince McMahon, which is pretty wild. But enjoy that night, Bruce. You chose this job, now you got to take it. So, but hey, getting some booking here for the Texas Legends convention as well. And that does it for this section of the preview. I forgot to ask you at the beginning, Taylor, and I guess we can kind of combine this into one question here. What is your temperature level on WrestleMania weekend? Are you looking forward to it more or less the same as prior years? And also, are there any other matches or shows that you were looking forward to checking out that maybe we did not talk about here?
My temperature level is, I would say, probably fairly lukewarm. On WrestleMania as a whole. I'm still sort of taking the Thursday and Friday off to sit at home and watch stuff. Obviously, I'm not going. It just feels like we're at a weird point where New Japan, is coming in to do a show, but they don't feel that hot. Ring of Honor has gone through all of their stuff, so they don't feel that hot. AEW has taken a lot of the big indie talent, so the indies don't really feel that hot, and it just sort of feels like a mixture of things combining to make this sort of like, Yeah, like
it's in a weird place. It's in a very weird place right now, and I can't exactly put my finger on it either, because it's not like we haven't had bad WrestleMania weekends. We've had weekends where it just doesn't feel like there's any kind of... There are like big-time shows, but it doesn't feel like any of the showcase events. And like you said, the depth in the indies is just really dire in that sense that it's not necessarily, I don't want to say it's bad because there's a lot of good talent on there. There's just very little that gets you like super, super excited. Like there's very few shows that you're like, oh man, you can't skip that show. There's a lot of little stuff throughout the weekend that you can watch. And like, that might be the best way to do it is just to, bounce around between different shows, bounce around as much as you can. But yeah, for some reason, there's just something that feels off about this WrestleMania weekend, and I can't exactly put my finger on it. And I don't know if maybe it was that way last year, but we were just so happy to have WrestleMania weekend again, so we were just like, whatever, who cares? But I don't know, this one does feel a little different, a little strange to me as well. So
yeah, and the show I'm probably most excited for, or at least interested in, is probably the Ring of Honor show, just because it's sort of the same company, quote unquote, but also a totally different company, where I don't really know what it's going to, at the end of that show, what do we think about Ring of Honor? What does it look like? Who are the champions? What's happened on the show? I really have no idea. A lot of these other shows, like For the Culture or Spring Break, they'll probably have fun matches, but, the show will end and it'll be like, oh, it was the show I sort of expected. I really have no idea what to expect with this Ring of Honor show.
Yeah, it's going to be one to definitely watch this weekend because it will be the first one under, obviously the AEW Tony Khan regime. And yeah, it could be completely different. It could be exactly like Ring of Honor was before. I have no earthly idea what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like. And so, yeah, I'll definitely be circling that one. The New Japan show obviously looks pretty good. So like I said, I think there's a bunch of stuff that I like on this WrestleMania weekend. It doesn't have necessarily the whole like, all right, no, this is, here's the huge lineup that you can do. And here's, match of the year level stuff you're going to see here. I don't know if we're going to get that, but I think there's enough fun stuff to have a pretty enjoyable weekend. I think you'll be able to definitely get the most out of your Thursday and Friday off of work and enjoy some stuff here on WrestleMania weekend. So I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited to check it out. But thank you again for helping us come on and preview this very random assortment of random shows and events. Before we depart, if you just want to let us know again how we can follow you, how we can listen to you, and all that other good stuff, get your plugs in.
Yes, it's always my pleasure to do this. I love doing it. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Tamaimbo, Tamaimbo. Please give a listen to the world's #1 Joshi podcast, Jumping Bomb Audio. You can follow us on Twitter at JBombAudio. We release a show every other week, so check us out.
There you go, Taylor. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll talk to you again later.
See ya.
All right, and we're continuing our WrestleMania weekend previews with Kevin Hare. Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Rich. How about you?
I'm doing well, you can follow him on Twitter at Stan, what is it, 3_ Hansen? I always mix up which ones it is. Two. It's 2_ Stan Hansen, yes. Or as he's known by many major music blogs, Stan. Hello, Kevin, how are you? So yeah, that's an inside joke that like 7 people get, but
yeah.
Didn't do it this year, though, right?
Has come to it. Yeah, they didn't do it. Noisy. I would always review their albums, and they didn't do it this year, so I retired, I guess.
Yeah. Did they say why they didn't? Did they tell? They should have reached out to you. They have to tell you this because that's your yearly tradition. They just screwed it all up. You were already slapping your hands together, like, all right, let's do this, and then they just never came. So
they posted multiple articles about me before, but then they just ignored me when I tried to ask. So
those jerks, yeah. Use you when they can use, when they need you, and then when you need them, they got nothing for you. So unbelievable. But I always loved when they were like, Stan, one of our big fans, is listening to all these. So I love the idea that somebody maybe at one point looked up Stan Hansen and at least thought that man was reviewing all the albums this year and was like, this Trap album was pretty damn good. I enjoyed it. Like, I like the idea of Stan Hansen listening to Lil Baby and being like, not bad, yeah, okay. Like,
it wasn't big fan Stan Hansen. It was real weirdo, like isn't well adjusted Stan Hansen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they did say like, get a load of this, weirdo. Listen to all this shit. Like, what the hell is he doing? What's wrong with this guy? Yeah, that's right. I forget they weren't like, wow, this is cool. They were like, whoa, what a weirdo.
I know. And then also the other thing that is, I still, even though now it says I am not Stan Hansen in my bio, every once in a while, I still get people tagging me as if I were Stan Hansen.
Hell yeah.
So
well, I mean, not the worst thing. Yeah, not the worst thing to be mixed up for Stan Hansen. But
just some old guy like posting a picture of Stan Hansen and tagging every other wrestler in it, and then you tag me too.
It's some good. I'm sure you get some good pictures out of it. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, we're going to talk about some of the GCW shows here. We're going to talk about Janela's Spring Break, also Planet Death. But before we do that, Kevin, your thoughts on Mania Weekend this year? Are you into it more than usual? Into it as the same, less? What's kind of your temperature on Mania Weekend this year?
I'm into it less than other years. That's for sure. But I don't want to be like super negative. I'm still like excited for the idea of it. I'm taking off work. I'm either going to go somewhere and watch with a buddy or just sit around here and watch it all weekend. And I'm excited for that aspect of it, of just kind of shutting the brain off and watching everything that's going on. There's no like really marquee things anywhere that I am super excited for. A little bit on some of the shows we're talking about, I guess, and some other random things, but there's no like major matches where it's like, oh my God, this match is happening. Like, we were just talking about the other day, we were talking about Mania 2016 weekend. And if you look at that, even just going in, there was so much like, oh my God, I cannot wait for Nakamura versus Zayn and Ospreay versus Zack Sabre, all that stuff. This year, there's not really any of that. But like I said, I'm still excited for just the idea of devoting a whole weekend to just watching everything that's going on. And the thing about Mania Weekend, and I mean, it's still happening this weekend too, is that it still is like a the representation of wrestling in that year. And so I'm excited for that, even if maybe this year isn't as good as other ones.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, it's missing kind of the marquee events or the marquee, like, oh my God, you got to be, watching at 7 p.m. on Saturday because this show is going to be, there are some pretty cool standout events. There's still some really cool standout matches or whatever. You're just going to have to be a little bit more judicious about what you watch and checking out a bunch of different shows, because I really do think that if you put this Mania weekend together, it's gonna be a good Mania weekend. I think there's enough good matches, enough good cards, enough good wrestlers there to make. It's just, will you be able to? It used to be easy. You used to be able to say, hey, on Friday I'm going to watch this and this, and on Saturday I'm going to watch this and this, and I will have 8 great matches and 3 great shows like that. It's going to be a little bit more picking and choosing. Or like you said, you could just basically sit down, veg out for a day, and just say, you know what, I'm just going to watch or veg out for a weekend and just bounce around, watch a bunch of different shows, turn off the brain for a little bit, and just enjoy a celebration of wrestling in that given weekend. I mean, that's probably where we're at this year, which is okay too.
Yeah. I mean, there's not as much stakes on stuff. I think that's probably the major flaw, but at the end, it'll still be pretty fun.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a weekend like in past years where it was like, all right, everything is building to this WrestleMania weekend. This is our biggest show of the year. It doesn't feel like many companies really consider this like the biggest show of their year. They just kind of consider it, hey, we're going to do Mania weekend because Mania weekend's coming up, which is, it's just something we're going to have to maybe adjust to for now and adjust to, moving forward. But let's talk about the shows we wanted to highlight here. We'll talk about first Joey Janela's Spring Break 6, Part 1. I can't believe we've done 6 spring breaks at this point. The first one taking place March 31st at 8 p.m., so a pretty early start time for the first spring break, but don't worry, you got another one that's going to be starting a little bit later. 8 p.m., Spring Break Part 1. It's from the Fair Park building in Dallas, Texas. That's where all the collective stuff is happening. This will be, of course, streaming live on Fight, voiceofwrestling.com/fight. Also part of the collective bundle as well. So if you want to buy all the shows all at once, I think you save something like $37 to $40 or whatever if you buy all the shows at once. So basically a couple shows just for buying the whole bundle. And you're going to get, I think, something like 13 or 14 shows. You're going to get a bunch of stuff with the collective bundle, including both of these spring breaks. So Spring Break Part 1, 8 p.m. as we said. GCW World Title, Jon Moxley defending against AJ Gray. Joey Janela versus X-Pac. GCW Ultra Violent Championship, Alex Colon versus John Wayne Murdoch. GCW Tag Team titles, the Hate Club versus the Second Gear Crew versus the Briscoes. Blake Christian versus AR Fox. And Mickey James versus Alley Catch. I gotta say, I see people kind of down on Spring Break. I think that's a hell of a card for if you're a GCW fan, if you've been following GCW, if you follow the American Indies, that's a pretty good card. I can't imagine people getting too upset about that.
Yeah, so I think the thing with Spring Break that they've started to do over the past few years is that the first Spring Break and especially the second one, those were the really big novelty non-canon, but I say non-canon, but GCW didn't really have, they were still searching for their identity. At that point, it was still kind of deathmatch was the real identity, so it was a bit non-canon, but those were the big, the shows with the crazy, weird, dream matches, but you didn't even think about them, so you couldn't even call them a dream match going in, and, with the crazy party atmosphere and all that stuff. And as each one has gone on, it's become a little bit more GCW centric, and I think that that's not a bad thing, especially in the way that the indies are these days, where a lot of companies have kind of taken that novelty match template and based their entire company and persona around doing those types of matches. So I don't think it's a bad thing, especially as GCW grows, to make it GCW centric and to kind of turn it into a big GCW show with some, special things and extra things and big things on it. And, almost make this a WrestleMania-esque type of weekend for GCW. I think that makes sense. And in a lot of ways, I think that this card, and both of these combined, we'll combine them together. I think that this is more of a definitive GCW-esque card than the Hammerstein show in January, which obviously was the biggest GCW show of all time, at least as far as, perception and buzz and all that. And I think that these shows are kind of more of a real, they kind of show a bit more of what GCW is than those did. So I think that all makes sense too. I think the biggest flaw with these is that last year, GCW did this building up to this as a big GCW type of show with the conclusion of the Nick Gage versus Ricky Shane Page feud, which had lasted for a year or two, was years in the making. And this year, I think the biggest flaw with doing it more in-house is that it doesn't feel like there's been that big match that they've been building to, or that big thing that is being resolved this weekend. There's some little things that they've built to, and, there might be a big moment on this show specifically, but it just feels like it's lacking that this is the end goal that last year had. So for me, the flaw isn't necessarily the card. It's just kind of the stakes that they've generated going into the card.
Yeah, because Janelle and X-Pac should be like one that, and they have if you've been watching GCW, if you've been following GCW, that's a really cool feud going on. It's a really cool grudge going on, but it's only lasted like 2 months. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like one that I would have been building this up for half a year, like you said. I would have been building up. Maybe you can't do a whole year, but to people that maybe just checked out the Hammerstein show, to now see this, you're probably like, what the hell happened? Like, those guys, I thought they were buddies. Like, what the fuck? Like, so if you aren't like an every single week or every single month, GCW follower, you'll be like, what the hell just happened? I thought those guys were buds. Like, and I'm sure they can build it up or whatever, but it would have been, yeah, you're right. That match would have maybe meant a little bit more if they had been building this up, or if at the Hammerstein show, that's when Janela turned on X-Pac or whatever. That's when, you kind of started that. So the people that just check in for the major GCW shows kind of have a direct line between, okay, that Hammerstein show and this one. Whereas, this one kind of feels like if you missed a few months, like you maybe missed that entire story. And most of the other things, like you said, are just kind of, they're cool matches. Moxley and AJ Gray is a cool match. Colon and John Wayne Murdoch is a cool match, but they're lacking the Nick Gage, Ricky Shane Payton. We're not getting that on this show. And to be fair, you're very rarely going to get that. That's probably one of the best stories that GCW's ever told, if not the best story they've ever told. So I get it, but yeah, you're right that it's kind of lacking in stakes. It feels like a good show, but it feels like a show that could happen in May at insert random building somewhere. Could happen at the Atlantic City, the Showboat Hotel or whatever. And that, that's fine. That's cool. It's a good show, but it doesn't maybe have the gravitas that a WrestleMania weekend show feels like it should kind of have. But
I think that it's a good card, like I said, and they did a Los Angeles show last month, and that's where they built a lot of this stuff up. So that's where AJ Gray challenged for the title, and that's where Janela turned on X-Pac after they teamed together, and they made it seem like X-Pac was maybe wasn't all there, didn't have it, whatever, and then Janela turned on him, and that's where they built up some other stuff. So it kind of just compressed a lot of the build, which, I don't really care that much about compressing a lot of stuff like that. That's what New Japan would do every year at Power Struggle, right? But it would be nice if, example, the Moxley AJ Gray match, it doesn't feel like a definitive conclusion for something that, hypothetically should be and might be like a big landmark type of GCW match.
For sure. I am interested in Blake Christian versus AR Fox. I love AR Fox, and Blake Christian, as we've seen, can really excel in matches with tremendous workers. Not that Blake Christian's not good as well, but the stuff with Leo Rush, that was probably my favorite favorite match on the entire Hammerstein show. So I love this idea of Blake Christian versus AR Fox. AR Fox is somebody that I'm just always amazed does not get booked more, because he's been great. He's still great. He's still good. And yeah, he only gets a few bookings every, on a Mania weekend, he'll pop up every so often. You're like, oh, hey, AR Fox, what the hell? Why isn't he everywhere? So I'm really looking forward to that match. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, isn't it weird how time works, where it's just a thing that naturally happens, where somebody like AR Fox, where you see every weekend, and he goes from oh yeah, AR Fox is the next big thing, and then okay, he's here, he's ready to break out, but maybe didn't quite get there, and then all of a sudden he just kind of turns into indie legend focused guy, and you just blink and you're like, wait a minute, how did this happen?
I know. And in our lifetime, AR Fox went from hot young, whoa, this guy, to grizzled indie veteran,
right,
AR
exactly.
Fox.
And they're not wrong to present him like that.
No.
It makes sense to me to present him like that, but it's just really bizarre how just time works. But yeah, I think that he's barely wrestled since the pandemic started. He has a school, so he's just focused on that and not on wrestling. So I don't have any insight on this, but feel like I've seen rumblings or heard rumblings that, people want to book him more, and he's just not as interested in that. But I can't tell you that for sure. That's just what I remember seeing.
That would make sense, because he has popped up a few times. But yeah, maybe he's just being more, I don't really have to. I don't have to drive 7 hours. I make more money in a week doing a training school than I will, driving 7 hours to your stupid show. So I get it. Yeah, good for him. Hey, if that's where he's gotten to in life, good for him, man. So
exactly, and that does make a match like this where you have Blake Christian, who is, he's presented as the work rate, high flying GCW star. Yeah. You can have some varying opinions on how good you think he is, and I'm kind of in the middle on him. He's not my favorite, but I don't think he's terrible either. I think that he can have good matches when he's in there with somebody who's a bit better than him, but I don't necessarily tune in to watch him. But you have AR Fox, and now, like we said, he barely wrestles. So you have this guy who is out of his mind. He's super athletic, and he does things that you still don't see people do as crisp or as exciting as he. So it's really cool now that it's like, that does feel a bit like, oh yeah, there's this guy who I never see anymore, and he's coming out of hiding for this match. So that's cool, and I'm pretty excited to see him again.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else on part one, or did you want to kind of get into part two here? We can touch on. We can go back and forth if you need to as well. But if there anything on part one,
so there's a few things that I just want to touch on for part one. So the first is that the Moxley versus AJ Gray match is, I think that it's really weird where it does not feel that hot to me. It does not feel like AJ Gray is ready to be the champion. It feels like there's maybe something there missing. There hasn't been as much of a. His story is basically just that he's a GCW homegrown guy, and that's kind of it to me. There's not really anything else beyond that to the story. He is a very brief previous GCW champion, so it's not unheard of that he would go for it. But it just feels like he won the brass ring or whatever they called it at Hammerstein, and he's using it for this Mox match. But also, since Moxley came back last year, GCW had a really up and down year, and WrestleMania weekend was very up and down as well. But it led to the Moxley debut, and then he came in and he feuded with Nick Gage, and he had some Cardona interactions and won the belt, and he felt insanely hot. And then since he left and came back, he's just really felt like an afterthought in GCW. He just had the one match against Homicide. He hasn't really been around. I haven't even seen too many promos or anything, so it feels like he's just really on the back burner, which is weird because, one, he's John Moxley, one of the biggest stars in wrestling, and two, he's their champion. So just both of those things by themselves are a bit weird. So it feels like from that, he's been almost such a non-entity recently. It feels like it's time for him to drop the belt. But maybe this is just the calm before the storm, and he's getting his legs back under him in GCW. But I don't know. It feels more like the other, like it's just kind of, this relationship is just kind of petered out. But I'm not sure. So my prediction is that AJ Gray wins that, but I can't tell you that 100%.
Yeah, I kind of have a similar thought as well, that it just does feel like Moxley's kind of spinning his wheels right now in GCW. Yeah. So hopefully that's just a short-term thing, and hopefully, or like you said, maybe we're kind of reaching the end of the road of what that is, and that's fine too. That's okay if that's
Yeah, I mean, they got more out of it than I expected. It was disappointing that for a variety of reasons there was never a real definitive conclusion or peak to it, but things happen sometimes, so you can't really prevent any of that. The next thing on the show that I just want to highlight real quick is that the John Wayne Murdoch versus Alex Colon match. This has actually been a match that has been built for a long time. The build started with Alex Colon has been presented as the deathmatch icon of GCW. He's won Tournament of Survival 3 times in a row. He won the Nick Gage Invitational last year, getting a big win back over Masashi Takeda, who was the preeminent Japan deathmatch star over the past few years. So he's presented as the big boss, and they had Murdoch come in from ICW. He's the big. I don't think he's the champ there now, but he was the champ there for a while, and he's their big. He's the big star there, and so came in after Nick Gage Invitational last year. They had a really bizarre match in the beginning of this year that was good, but it like Cologne just kind of took over the match. He threw gusset plate boards at Murdoch's head and put a hole in his head. Essentially, the ref tried to stop it multiple times. It ended with Cologne going to the back, grabbing John Wayne Murdoch's bags and throwing them in the ring and telling him to leave. Basically, it was just very weird. It kind of made Murdoch look like pretty weak, but they kept the feud going since then. Murdoch came in at Hammerstein, and so this is a pretty big match. I think in Texas they can do death matches because they have other death matches. They do other shows there with like tubes and stuff, so I'm assuming that they can do it there, but I don't know 100%. If so, this will probably be one of the bigger built matches on the show. It wouldn't stun me if this is the main event. I'm not saying that it will be, but it wouldn't stun me there. But yeah, if this is within the GCW world, this is probably maybe the biggest and best built match of the weekend.
Definitely, yeah, and like you said, this does feel, Spring Break has kind of matured over the years now to become, or maybe mature is not the right word, but it has become, like you said, more of just a GCW show. Like it is representative of GCW more so than like a ha-ha, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, which the first, few Spring Breaks kind of were, like you said, kind of figuring out your identity, a lot of nostalgia acts, a lot of stuff like that. And Spring Break 2 kind of keeps up the same part. I mean, there's a few things that are a little bit different, but I think for the most part, I would say this is, there's a few things sprinkled in here. This is going on at midnight, bleeding into Friday, April 1st, into Saturday, April 2nd. We'll probably start sometime Saturday morning if my read on independent wrestling is correct, and the show probably will start late, Kevin. I got an assumption here that will happen, but that obviously is coming back from the Fair Park in Dallas, where all the other collective stuff is. You got Chris Dickinson versus Matt Cardona, Minoru Suzuki versus Effie, Speedball Mike Bailey versus PCO, Biff Busick versus Tony Deppen, and then the greatest clusterfuck battle royal, which has Maven in it, Jimmy Wang Yang is in it, Shaz McKenzie's in it, Jazzy Yang is in it, Nasty Leroy, Kevin Matthews, Edith Surreal, some other people as well. We only have, I think, like 5 or 6 names announced right now, but obviously we have many, many more that are going to show up and be part of the clusterfuck that usually goes on like 30 minutes longer than it probably should, but it's still a pretty fun match. Like, I love the clusterfucks, and I also hate the clusterfucks. So
the one that was after Madison Square Garden was brutal. Like, it was fun, but it was like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
People just keep coming out.
And you have Ethan Page and Hornswoggle like exchanging blows. You're like, all right, let's go. Come on, man. It's 3:30 a.m.
The show ends with Maria Manic standing in the ring, just destroying Joey Janela, and it's like, it's 3 a.m. What is happening?
Let's go home. Let's go home, guys. Come on, yeah. I'm in Jersey shit. I'm in, like, what is it, Eagle Hall or White Eagle Hall or whatever it is. Like, I'm ready to go, man. Let's go. Big weekend of wrestling still ahead. So, yeah, that's the only problem with the clusterfuck, is it tends to, A, be a clusterfuck, and B, it ends up going way, 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 way too long. But, hey, you might get Glacier, so that's always worth it. But, yeah, what do you think of this card? I think this is kind of a weird blend, like you said, of spring breaks of the past, of bringing in, Minoru Suzuki, bringing in a PCO, doing that sort of stuff, but then also kind of showcasing what might just be pretty cool matches. Like Biff Busick versus Tony Deppen is just probably a good match. Minoru Suzuki versus Effie, that will just kind of be pretty fun. Dickinson versus Cardona, that does kind of fit the GCW, style as well. So I don't know. This is a pretty cool card as well, I think.
Yeah, I think that this is cool. I think PCO versus Speedball has the possibility to be just insane. PCO still does whatever, even we're 5 years removed from the Walter match, almost 4 years, and it just feels like he still will try to do that type of match. And Speedball is game to just do, he's kind of, I say low-key, it's not like it's a secret, but he's kind of like, people don't really think of him as how crazy as he actually can be. So I think that has recipe to be just pretty wild match. Biff Busick versus Tony Deppen is kind of like a father versus son type of match, where it's like big Tony Deppen or small Biff Busick against each other. And so that is a pretty unique match. Dickinson versus Cardona. that is the one. I mean, it's been talked about a lot, but Cardona has turned into one of the big bad GCW figures to the point where he's almost a babyface because of how effective he's been as a heel. And so him just going through the GCW family, the GCW quote homegrown type of guys, and Dickinson is the next of those. So that should be a pretty good, pretty hot match, and it should be different than, you know, the two other really big ones you could point to are Cardona versus Gage and Cardona versus Janela, and this one will be different than those. And there's value, I think, in making that a bit different too. So I think that this card all looks good. I guess the only thing is hopefully that it's not rushed. The rest of the show isn't rushed too much to get to the clusterfuck. But yeah, this all looks like it should be pretty fun. And Effie versus Suzuki too. It's gotten a lot of hate online, but you know, Effie is a little bit better than people think, and I think that he's going to have a chip on his shoulder on this match. So he's either going to super lean into his gimmick, which may be fun because of how just into it he is, or he's going to say, "All right, like you didn't think I would be good in this match, and I'm going to be."
Right, or I mean, and I think also people are kind of telling on themselves that they don't really know what Minoru Suzuki is either now or what Minoru Suzuki's been in the past. Like, people just think of New Japan Prime G1 Suzuki. You're probably not getting that here against Effie. Maybe I would not bet on that. You're probably getting the Minoru Suzuki that fucked around in DDT. You're probably getting the Minoru Suzuki that goes to every indie in America that'll pay him this exorbitant fee, make funny faces, grab hands, you know, pull them back, like laugh, smile, like that. I mean, he knows how to play the hits. Like, he's not an idiot. He knows what he's doing here.
And he's had so many matches this weekend too. Like, it's kind of insane. Especially like when I think of him at Mania Weekend, there was the New Orleans weekend. He was in a 6-man in at the WrestleCon show, and Tanahashi was on the other side. And that match, it starts, and he just rolled out of the ring, and he stayed out there almost the entire match.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's in economy. He's getting up there in age, and he's getting up there in the bank account too these days. So yeah, more power to him. Gets to fly out here to Texas, gets to mess around. So yeah, I don't know what people expect out of it. I mean, I know that people are like, oh, that's him against Effie. You know, it's like, Minoru Suzuki's not that guy anymore. I mean, he could be that, he can, but does he really want to be on this weekend? Probably not.
Right.
Like, you know,
and people wanted Suzuki versus Orange Cassidy, and just sadly the window on that, I think, is closed. So it's not going to happen. So this is kind of a similar type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And Dickinson and Cardona, I think I'm looking forward to that. Cardona in GCW has been awesome, like a really, really incredible character there. Really, everywhere he's been, he's impressed the hell out of me over the last year. But GCW in particular, with just the insane hatred, he leans into it. He plays it up perfectly. And I think this is a good spot for Dickinson as well, because he's coming back from a very serious injury, and he's probably coming back a little too early, in my medical opinion. I have no medical, but like, it still does feel like, it feels like it's a longer injury than what he's doing. So this might be a good spot for him to not necessarily need to bust his ass and just kind of do like, I mean, Chris Dickinson, all he's going to have to do to get heat here is just be Chris Dickinson. You know what I mean? Like, all he's going to have to do is the most basic stuff. Cardona can take big, huge bombs. Dickinson can just kind of be a bruiser. And it's a good way to kind of have a super hot match, but be an, you know, economy of movement here for Dickinson. He doesn't need to be going off the top rope. He doesn't need to be doing anything too crazy. He can just basically wrestle a basic heel versus babyface match, and that's perfectly fine. And the crowd will be more than happy to cheer on Dickinson and tell Matt Cardona to go fuck himself. So that'll be fun to check out. But let's circle back now to the other show we were going to talk about, GCW's Planet Death, which is, I do hope that they can do death matches in Texas, or else Planet Death could be a little bit of a bummer here. But given the names that are booked on the show, I would assume that they are full go on doing death matches, because this guy is going on. This is Thursday, March 31st at 11:59 p.m. So this will probably bleed into Saturday morning from the Fair Park, of course. Collective bundle, voiceswrestling.com/fight if you just want to buy it by itself. But it's Sadika versus Jimmy Lloyd, Reed versus Hoodfoot, Akira versus Cole Radrick, Sawyer Wreck versus Brandon Kirk, Slade versus Bam Sullivan, Hoodfoot versus Madman Pondo, and Shane Mercer versus Neil Diamond Cutter. I mean, this is very deathmatchy, this show, man. This is deathmatch at 101 here.
Just to clarify, so the Reed versus Hoodfoot match is not happening. So that was replaced by the Madman Pondo match. So
okay, cool. I will update. Oh, yeah, Hoodfoot, I mentioned him twice, so there we go. I will take that out. So, was that Reed Bentley? Is he hurt, or what's...
Yes.
Okay.
I honestly, I'm not sure why but I just know that he was replaced.
Got it.
So,
all right. Yeah, that'd be a tough double duty for Hoodfoot to work 2 death matches
Right.
in one
Right.
night. But
right, two death matches after midnight.
right, yeah, tough gig, but hey, you know what? It's what pays the bills. But yeah, I don't know. For people that are not into deathmatch or not as kind of aligned with that style as much, this is an interesting one because yeah, we're in some GCW shows. You're getting wrestlers you've probably heard of or you've seen elsewhere doing death matches. This is like if this is as I said, a very deathmatchy show. A lot of these guys in here are very well known for their deathmatch styles. Jimmy Lloyd, of course. Neil Diamond Cutter, well known for it. Akira, well known for it. But I think there is also some interesting stuff with like a Cole Radrick who has done some, but not a ton. I don't know. Yeah, Madman Pondo, obviously a legend of the deathmatch scene.
Right.
It's a pretty fun, interesting card there. If so, say I'm somebody who doesn't know much about deathmatch. What can I kind of expect out of this show? Is this one I should watch, or do I need to be do I already have to be a deathmatch fan to really get some enjoyment out of this?
Well, last year's Planet Death was one of the worst shows of the weekend. It was awful, and it was Alex Colon Brandon last year, and it just sucked. So I'm hoping that being midnight in Texas, and as opposed to 3:00 in the afternoon in the bright Florida sun, kind of helps the show a bit. I think that it doesn't have some of the big deathmatch names like Cologne, like we were talking about, but there are some of the most fun deathmatch people right now. I think the big match that I'm looking forward to the most is Akira versus Cole Radrick. So Akira has been presented as kind of the next deathmatch superstar. He's had a match with Cologne GCW, and they've kind of teased that there might be more. He kind of became the rising star in ICW too. So he's kind of the new next guy. Cole Radrick, he hasn't done as many death matches, but earlier this year against Oren Veidt in February, he had the best GCW match this year so far against him, and it was a death match, and it was just kind of Radrick getting destroyed and incredibly bloody and just not backing down and coming back. He kept coming back, and it was the best match I've ever seen him in by far. So I think that this match actually is one of the matches I'm most excited for the weekend because I don't know what the floor is. It might be a low floor. It might not be that good, but it really has the potential to be like one of those really special, everything coming together and just having one of these really almost transcendent type of death matches. So I'm really excited for that one. Genuine excitement. And then otherwise you're going to have, there's just a lot of seediness and kind of scumminess on the show. And that I mean that in a good way. You're going to have, in the middle of the night, Sadiqa, who, if you have not seen, she is a large, completely psychopathic luchadora who just absolutely just destroys. In one of her matches, she had a broken arm and she just kept going. She broke her arm in the match. She absolutely just brutalized Gage when she wrestled him. When she gets worked up, it's almost like anyone else in wrestling right now. It's one of those real it's almost like Nick Gage a few years ago, where you're almost scared to be around somebody, but you're also incredibly intrigued by them. That's kind of the vibe that she has right now. So her versus Jimmy Lloyd could also be really good. And then the one other thing is Deathmatch Shane Mercer is awesome. He's known for all of his big power moves and stuff, but he does death matches a few times a year, and it's always awesome. So I'm excited for that too. I don't know if this is going to be the greatest show or anything, but if you're up at midnight and you're I want wrestling, I think that this one is going to be a good, this will be a really fun, just turn your brain off and just watch insanity in the middle of the night. I think that this has a pretty high ceiling from that regard. So I'm pretty excited for it. And honestly, with these shows, they could easily just fall apart and be a mess too. So I think that aspect is there too. And if that happens, it could be pretty fun as well.
Yeah, that's sometimes not the worst thing that can happen. Yeah, that Akira Cole Radrick, I definitely had circled as a match that interests me, because those are two people that I think are good wrestlers. And to me, when I watch deathmatch, I like Alex Colon. I love watching Alex Colon in deathmatch because I think Alex Colon is just a good wrestler. He's a good wrestler who does death matches, and that makes for a really, really good like Takeda in Japan is the same thing. I think that dude's just a good wrestler that just so happens to, he has a style that he works. And Akira and Cole Radrick, I mean, Cole Radrick, again, a guy I think is really solid. And Akira, I think, is a solid wrestler too. Akira more so has, came into, his own as being a deathmatch guy, and that's fine. That works. But like, yeah, he strikes me as he's not quite to Alex Colon's level yet, but he's a guy who's a good worker who does death matches, which to me, I will always be a little bit more interested in than just strictly like, hey, I'm a deathmatch guy. No offense to Madman Pondo, but I'm much more interested in seeing, Akira, wrestle than I am Madman Pondo wrestle. And especially Akira versus Cole Radrick. That sounds pretty cool. And yeah, the way you're describing Sadiq, and I've seen a few clips here and there. Her versus Jimmy Lloyd is going to be, utter destruction of body and soul. So that does sound kind of fun. So
yeah, it should be good. And I mean, Jimmy, he's up and down and sometimes not too great, but when he goes in there against like a high profile opponent on a big show like this, he can deliver. Like his Takeda match Spring Break a few years ago.
Oh yeah, he knows.
Like, epic.
Yeah, he knows when he's in a big spot for sure. You can tell when he realizes that he's in a big spot, in a main event, in a big featured match. That the work definitely gets up to a level, and the destruction gets up to level as well, which certainly helps. So
exactly. So this certainly has the potential, if everything works out, to just be pretty crazy.
So that is GCW Planet Death again. That's going to be Friday night / Saturday morning from the Fair Park in Dallas, Texas. So that is Spring Break. That is Planet Death. Before we bid adieu to you, Kevin, is there anything else this Mania weekend that you're looking forward to? You said you're taking some days off. You're just going to relax and watch wrestling. What do you have kind of circled as, all right, these are the shows I definitely have to watch this weekend?
I'm excited to see Dr. Wagner versus Psycho Clown in like a scummy GCW match. That sounds awesome. I think that the atmosphere and everything for it could be like perfect to just be one of those like scummy indie lucha matches just across the border. So that's probably the match that I'm most looking forward to. As far as like just good, solid wrestling shows, I feel like the WrestleCon Super Show should be really good. It's one of those shows where I think everything is going to be good. Maybe there's not going to be like anything transcendent because of how Super Show structure is, but that's fine. It should all be good. And I also think that the Ring of Honor show has the potential to be like low-key really good. I think that it's kind of been swept under the rug slightly just because of what's been going on with Ring of Honor and stuff. But when you look at what the card is and how it all looks right now, I think that could be pretty good too. So like I was saying, there's nothing that I'm like insanely excited about, but it's like, I think that in some ways that's kind of good where you just go in with no expectations and just kind of like sit down and watch things, and you can't be disappointed. You can only be like, oh yeah, that was actually really good and cool. So that's where I'm at this year. Maybe some of that is just rationalizing a little bit, but that's fine. I'll accept that.
Nah, yeah, it's WrestleMania weekend. You're gonna watch it anyway. You might as well try to, But I like that approach where you just kind of sit down and say, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to see the show of the year. I don't know if I'm going to see a match of the year. I don't know if I'm going to see whatever, but you know what? Let's just watch wrestling for 3 days and see what ends up happening. And you're right. It might end up being, instead of going in thinking, oh, here, it's WrestleMania weekend, it's got to be great. Just going in thinking, it's a weekend of wrestling. It's still wrestling. At the end of the day, it's still wrestling. Wrestling is really fun and really good and awesome.
Like last year, I was excited to watch the Triassic Cup, the 30 people in a bright Florida parking lot. It was terrible. But it was like, all right, it's still Mania weekend. Like, this show is terrible, but it's cool. It's 1 p.m. on a work day, and I'm sitting here watching this. This is awesome. Even though the show was
there's
like
8 people in the audience, and we're in a parking lot. But hey, you know what? I'm watching it, and we're enjoying it. It's still wrestling at the end of the day. So yeah, I think that's a good way to approach the weekend. But Kevin, thank you so much for coming on here, helping us preview Spring Break and Planet Death. Before we get out, do you want to give any plugs? Let people know where they can follow you, or check anything else out?
No, just on Twitter, Stan__Hansen. Every once in a blue moon, I will do something for the website. Have some GCW. Usually, I've kind of just fallen into reviewing the deathmatch tournament. So, whenever that happens later this year, I'll sure write that, and maybe working on something else for VOW. I think I just said GCW instead of VOW, but I meant VOW.
How dare you? No, I'm kidding.
And but yeah, maybe working on something else for VOW too. So keep an eye out for that. And just follow me.
There we go. Awesome, Kevin. Thank you so much for coming on here and helping us preview WrestleMania weekend.